Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if God like Naruto copies Sasuke Chidori part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. It began innocently enough, my descent into darkness. I was a normal boy, if not for my penchant to expect the world around me to be ignorant of the potential I held within myself, how the only wall between me and my dreams was the lack of time due to school, chores, and whatever else detracts a 16-year-old from filling his existence with purpose. For born are we free, yet taught the lesson of dust. I did not die from a collision with any sort of vehicle. Alcohol was not involved from my end either. None is the greater intoxicant other than youth. All it takes is one moment of recklessness and a desire to prove myself to no one in particular. Using parkour to get to school in time after last night's rain was a thrilling, but quite unwise decision. For I lived in New York and had to scale quite a few sky-high buildings to get to school. But come now, is not life an experiment, in all its danger and charm? For one moment I shut my eyes to the overcast sky, the wind flapping through my clothes and whistling in my ears hundreds of stories from Earth, and the next instant feeling myself collide onto a mattress as if I had fallen from a great height. There was no excessive pain, and all external stimuli vanished, serving only to make the silence that followed one of the most anxious moments I had ever faced in my life. With apprehension, I opened my eyes. Into my vision came a featureless white roof. Slowly I rose, and began observing my current location, a room that could have been an apartment in Japan. There was a low table, tatami mats on the floor, which itself was raised with a small portion in front of the door where one would remove their shoes. Had the earth spun enough while I was in midair for me to crash into another country? The scenario was only as implausible as falling from hundreds of feet, and waking up completely uninjured, only with a disorientation that dissipated by the second. And someone had apparently taken me to their home instead of a hospital, even changing me out of my clothes into a blue shirt and gray pajamas. Let us not discuss the embarrassment I felt upon sensing nothing beneath the pajamas. Flexing my strangely calloused hands, I felt power thrumming through my core and flipped off the bed in one smooth motion, landing lightly on the floor without a sound. Huh! I wondered at the abnormally agile movement. It felt as if my body was a finely tuned machine, my gait feather-footed as I moved about the room, looking for someone else until I opened the door and found the bathroom, a mirror right in front. Blinking, I closed the door. And then reopened it. And then I began to repeat the two motions, increasingly frantic until I slammed the door aside and rushed inside, hands slamming on the sink before I crashed into the glass. What? Said I in a smooth voice not my own. Panic rose within me and the situation was not at all helped by the fact that my irises transitions into red, a single comma revolving around my dilating pupil. Staring back at me was the face of Uchiha Sasuke, Genin of Konoha. So, I fell from a skyscraper and after the hypnic jerk of a lifetime, found myself in an anime that I was intimately familiar with, into the body of someone who going to be in the center of a maelstrom of shite. And you know what? I was okay. Like Sasuke, I didn't have family. I lived with someone who really couldn't bother looking for me if I went missing, and most importantly, I'd never have to hand in those assignments I was overdue with. Heaving a great sigh, I calmed down and became acutely aware of a feeling around my eyes, more along the lines of reinforcement than tension, and tried to will it away. It worked, and the Sharingan faded. To experiment, I tried to recall the same sensation and lo and behold, the Uchiha bloodline resurfaced, tinting my vision a slight red. Considering the circumstances which invoke this ability, I hereby have a new way of looking at the phrase seeing red. Immediately I began to investigate the apartment, finding a variety of healthy food in the fridge, all of it packaged with the symbol of the leaf on the wrappers. Good with sharp objects and slicing things ninja might be, but it would seem many do not bother with cooking, if the food items that looked like the work of mass production was any clue, all by the same manufacturer. There was an organized calendar standing upon the wooden dresser next to the bathroom door, which showed today to be the day teams were assigned at the start of the series. Inside a 3-drawer dresser were clothes, with a shiny forehead protector on them, at the top, new toiletries in the middle, and in its bottom drawer the ninja tools, already prepared in blue holsters and pouches. Beneath the bed was a small safe, whose combination flashed through my head the moment I touched the knob. Setting aside my fascination, I opened it to find a black wallet, decorated with a red and white fan, and did not bother with other important-looking documents initially. There was a revealing bank book showing that its owner was not all that rich, and that Sasuke received a reasonable allowance. This prompted a look at the other pages in the safe, showing that aside from some important lands such as his parents' house, a pond, and some more plots for the future, Everything else had been taken by the village to be put to use, compensated monetarily from where the money he currently lived on came. With everything in order, I looked at the wall to confirm how much time I had before 7, when the academy started, according to the last page of the calendar outlining his daily routine, which included 9 hours of training and only 7 hours of sleep, the heathen, and promptly began to get myself in order. Checking myself in the mirror, my mind ran across the random fact that Charlie Chaplin once lost a contest in which all he had to do was look like himself. Would the same apply to me if I were to enter such a thing for cosplay? Smirking at the thought, I tied the forehead protector securely and walked out the door, but not before my mind scrambled to find the key to the abode of the last Uchiha so I could lock the door behind me. The first thing I did when outside was to climb the roof of the building I was on and obtain the best vantage I could, before sitting down in the lotus position, taking in all of Konoha that I could. The reason for this was simple. In order to access any knowledge I suspected Sasuke might have, all I had to do was think about it, and it showed up in my mind, as with the safe and the location of apartment key. I was not aware of the places in Konoha, therefore I spent a good 10 minutes or so conjuring up every location Sasuke had knowledge of, and starting with the Ninja Academy to the place he trained at, shopped from, visited out of habit and the sort. Once I had finished, I smiled. It was a beautiful day to walk to the academy, and so I did. After I tried falling from a roof to see if I could go back to my own world, of course, for though the sight of the Hokage monument was thrilling to see, I wanted to make sure I was not dreaming. On the streets, it took great effort to not react whenever I came across someone dressed in the uniform of Konoha, or when I walked by a sight I had only witnessed behind a computer or mobile screen. It was hard playing a stoic character when I'm someone who'd rather have emotions on my face and control them, than to inhibit them in the first place. It was only when I walked into the classroom with my memories accompanying me did I realize I had screwed up. Sasuke-kun! Chorused many shrill voices in mismatched harmony, causing me to flinch. Ignoring everything, not even pausing to see who or how many had called from where, I walked down and took a seat near the corner of a bench meant for 3 people, only a few steps away from the door in case I needed to exit. Remembering the body language I was supposed to portray, Shikamaru was still in this class after all, I slightly leaned on my elbows, crossing my fingers against my chin. I did not bat an eye when Naruto made his entrance, nor did I pull out my hair when Sakura and Ino started arguing in raised voices. You bastard, Naruto crouching in front of had my attention on all fronts. What's so special about you anyway? Sasunaru fans, unto thee I say, no way in hell. I haven't kissed anyone in my life. Without even noticing I had my Sharingan on, just in time to see the moment Naruto got pushed from behind and was out of my seat faster than Kakashi removed and reapplied his mask during a meal. The end result was the poor guy tripping over the desk and smashing his face on the spot I was seated at seconds ago. Enhanced healing or not, that looked like it hurt. Quickly deactivating the Uchiha bloodline, I sighed, before sitting at another empty space. Irika-sensei came in soon afterwards, and the team assignments began. It went as normal, but I still felt relieved I hadn't ended up in some alternate universe of Naruto with different arrangements. The roll calls also allowed me to check if any of the characters I knew had their genders swapped, but it turned out to be okay. We sat on the roof as Kakashi finished his banal introduction 2 hours later, our teacher now waiting for us to follow his lead. My name is something you'd already know, I began to the obvious surprise of others, voice as flat as I could keep it. I like the things I like, and don't like the things I dislike. Kakashi's eye widened minutely and Naruto snickered besides me, and my dreams for the future are too dull a prospect to bore you with. Ha! My turn, said a mischievous Naruto. If you're a jounin you'd know my name as well. I like a lot of things I find fun, my dislikes include things which are not included in what I like, and you'd have to live under a rock to not know my dream, believe it. I turned to look at Naruto in pleasant shock, only to find him looking at me with his trademark grin. Reciprocating his gesture, I let out an Uchiha HNTM. Following our lead, Sakura's introduction was in the same vein. If Kakashi was not amused, he did not let it show. After informing us of the test tomorrow, he disappeared in a swirl of leaves. I have got to learn to do that. Getting up without a word, I took off in the direction of a training ground I'd gleaned from my memories near the former Uchiha district, ignoring whatever my future teammates were going to say. For you see, even if I knew my own skills, there was plenty I had to learn, from Sasuke's own memories no less. Landing swiftly in a clearing with plenty of trees, targets, training dummies and a small pond to boot, I placed my hands on my hips and threw up my head to stretch my back. Doing warm-up stretches, I went over Sasuke's overall routine mentally. Let's get to work then. Forming a ram seal, I searched within me for chakra, found it respond easily to my call, the foreign feeling pulsing from navel and circulating towards my chest, from my arms to the tips of my fingers, along my legs to the balls of my feet. Opening my eyes, which I hadn't realized were closed, I let my arms hang by my sides and held on to the rush of power I felt. Eyeing a tree, I ran towards it on impulse, feeling a grin split my face at my acceleration. Blue sandals made contact with dull brown bark and I soldiered onward with my momentum, clapping my hands mid-run as I tried to push out my chakra from the soles of my feet, feeling the surface of the tree slightly splinter. Frowning, I reduced the flow, feeling quite adroit at the manipulation of chakra, perhaps due to hypersensitivity towards my latest physiological sense. And surprisingly, it worked as I began to slow down, feeling more confident as my steps began to slip less and began to feel more adhesive, until I was standing at 90 degrees with respect to the ground, jaw hanging open like an idiot. Sasuke didn't have such good chakra control. Was this all me? Cutting off the flow to my feet, I flipped towards a branch, kicking off from it towards a lower one before I finally landed on the grass, crouched with one hand on the ground. Without missing a beat, I launched myself into the trees, where the shuriken practice boards, my entire path a blur of green until I arrived at my destination. Constantly darting my eyes along the practice boards, I took my position in the center of the clearing, trying to clear my mind and latch onto the memories of Sasuke training here. Here, where Itachi used to come to train. Closing my eyes, I sought what I needed to know to perform the same things he did, the things Sasuke would do. I was aware of that knowledge, but my mind was only assaulted with memory after memory of failure, attempt after attempt of Sasuke trying to hit the center of each mark, before the sun was up, in the moonlight, when insects chirped ceaselessly, trying even after he was sweating in the falling snow. I felt overwhelmed. Fear, respect lanced through me in equal measure. All of his hard work, blood, sweat, and tears. My nails bit into my palm as I wondered where the poor boy was now. If one day you come back, I'll let you know nothing you did went to waste her. I will honor you, wherever your soul is. I leapt into the air, hands nearly emptying my holster. The afternoon sky turned the slightest shade of red. 8 kunais. 2 to the north, diagonally departing as one ascended and another descended. 2 to the south, one tilted towards the ground by barest touch of my left little finger. 4 more, thrown into the remaining directions as my ascent halted. A moment of weightlessness. I drew 2 more. Gravity pulled and I lashed, chakra propelling the last of my kunai faster as they struck the pairs in the east and west, separating them by half a tangent. I landed with nary a sound. Collecting the blades, each lodged into the center each target, I felt the strangest urge to cry. But now was not the time. I had to practice my taijutsu, go through each form, and batter the training dummies until my knuckles, shins, knees and elbows felt like they would split open. I had to throw rows of shurikens until my shoulders felt like they would pop out of their sockets. Throw, collect, repeat. Go through several hand seals per second until my activated Sharingan ingrained everything I was supposed to show, everything Uchiha Sasuke had cried blood to achieve. Feeling sorry for Sasuke, sorry for myself, because that who I apparently was now. My body began to protest in the evening. I had forgotten lunch, but lunch was not necessary. I was someone who achieved when I put my mind to it. And right now, my mind was not entertaining any thoughts of distraction. Another Sasuke and I have in common, I noted. Walking over to the pond, I tested walking on the water, but only managed a few steps. It was too random, too unstable. A voice at the back of my head suggested I was merely tired, but was ruthlessly quashed. No excuses? I still had chakra left. With that thought, I walked out of the shallow water and flipped through the hand seals for the fireball jutsu, breathing slowly out, transforming an ember into a roaring flame as I poured chakra into it, drop by drop. Sweat continuously dripped down my face even as I wiped it off. The blue cloth of my forehead protector was completely soaked. Only when I inhaled and noticed my choked throat did I realize tears were trailing down my cheeks. Hastily rubbing them off my forearm protector, I took a deep breath and flipped through the seals for the technique again, this time by pouring all the chakra I could from the get-go, keeping sure to make it as efficient as possible. Again, I said to myself. By the time dusk arrived, I felt like stumbling back to the apartment. But Uchiha Sasuke did not walk like a sleep-deprived drunk even after a harsh day of training, so I did not. I emptied half a liter bottle of water when I reached home, followed by half a dozen onigiri with various fillings, a tomato and chicken sandwich and large glass of milk. After a warm bath, scrubbing out all the grime and dirt I had accumulated, I sat to clean and sharpen my weapons without even bothering to dry myself completely in my new change of clothes, a collarless blue shirt and gray trousers. Memories came more sluggishly now that I was worked to the bone, but I managed maintenance without mishap. Afterwards, I still had time before 9, which was allocated for going down into the market and buying breakfast for the next day, which I did so, and upon returning finally brushed my teeth for turn-in for the night. Before next sunrise, I was up automatically, and ready for the day that lay ahead. The day I would become Uchiha Sasuke, member of Team 7. Oi, bastard! You're late, are you eating? Naruto was predictably outraged when I showed up near 9 instead of 7. With an apple in my hand. Hey, the fruit seller let me pick them off a tree and they are so red and juicy. I wonder if I could sue those companies which guaranteed their apples were out of my previous world, because they tasted nothing like this fine specimen. Taking out another from my pocket, where I had kept it wrapped in a black handkerchief, I held out with the left hand. Surprise showed their faces at the gesture. After a night of grief, I had decided that the more I tried to emulate Sasuke, the more depressed I would feel because his habits were self-destructive. No hobbies or ways to relax? Conversation with people kept to a bare minimum? Nothing to indicate he visited any sort of health professional or a psychologist? Left on his own without any change in routine, so thoughts drifted towards limited topics? Yeah, I respectfully decline. It's not as if I'm sinning, and if someday Sasuke does return, I've got it covered. Team, what are you trying to pull? Naruto squinted, as if he had never seen basic human decency before. I turned towards Sakura, who looked at me once, then received it with alacrity. Thanks, Sasuke-kun. But Kakashi-sensei said I took a rather noisy bite, crunching the succulent flesh of this holy fruit, and attained enlightenment once more as to how one could have gotten kicked out of heaven over it. I love apples. Sakura stared for a while, before taking an apprehensive nibble out of her own. Turning towards Naruto once more, I brought out my last fruit with more effort than I would ever admit. Fine. It's not like I'm hungry or anything, bastard. He snatched it like the tsundere he was, but finished it at the same time as me. And I had a half-eaten apple to begin with, not to mention he even chewed in the core and spit out the seeds. The blonde seemed to notice my gaze and beamed. He knew that I knew. I let him know that I knew that he knew I knew. We were rivals. Or maybe he just couldn't stay mad at someone once they were nice to him. My musing was interrupted when there was a poof of smoke in our vicinity, and Kakashi appeared, catching the half-eaten apple thrown by Sakura with ease as she proclaimed loud enough so perhaps the Hokage would hear, "You're late." I thought I told you guys not to eat any breakfast? I didn't. But Sasuke brought apples and we were kinda hungry, so hey, you still didn't say why you were late. Why are you so late? You said 7. Naruto flitted between sheepish and guilty at having disobeyed his teacher to suddenly angry. Sorry, there was a bird stuck in a tree and I had to go free it in a pond. You what? A specter of disappointment glimmered in his wide, blue eyes but soon vanished. I helped a bird. Screw this. We've lost enough time already, get on with it. Naruto cut our teacher short, and barely veiled amusement he explained the rules. By the time he had said start, only Sakura had leapt away to hide, Kakashi standing aloof as always, Naruto with his arms hanging by his side, rearing to go until I raised a hand. I'm going home. Kakashi actually turned his head to look at me, rather than just moving his pupil as he was prone to do while Naruto spluttered incoherently. Don't you want to pass? The Jounin leaned forward slightly, chin in hand. Do I? I shrugged, looking wistful as a breeze ruffled the bangs lining my jaw. Hey, does this mean me and Sakura pass? Naruto piped up. Kakashi ignored him, staring at me intently. I don't know, Naruto, would you give up so Sasuke and Sakura can pass instead? That's why would I mean fine. If you don't want me on your team, just say so. I'll get the old man to get me a teacher who shows up on time. I could tell by the stiffness of his posture that Kakashi was growing more alarmed by the second, before he gained his bearings and interjected. You don't seem to be wanted on a team with Naruto, is that why you're giving up Sasuke? Naruto cut himself, diverted towards me by our jerk of a Jounin sensei. Quickly I responded, I want us all to pass, but you left me with no choice. My first impression was right. I don't like you. At this point Sakura had joined us, just in time to hear his remark. What's going on here? She darted her eyes around us, flummoxed. This bastard said he's giving up, but that jerk wants me to give up instead. The blonde pointed first at me and then at Kakashi. And I refuse. Wait, why does Sasuke-kun want to give up? Ask him. Do you want to give up, Sasuke-kun? HN? But isn't being a ninja your dream? Weren't you an Avenger? HN. Sensei let me give up instead. At least Sasuke can advance, right? Hey, what about me, Sakura-chan? Naruto butted in. Fine then, I give up. You go be with the bastard. Kakashi covered his face with his hand. I can't tell whether you're just being annoying or... I give up for Naruto, who gives up for Sakura, who gives up for me. Isn't that teamwork? Or you've actually realized what this test's about. Our future teacher lazily glanced at me. Wait, what? Naruto blinked while Sakura came to the realization that normal teenagers would miss at first glance, after spending years at a school where the word of a teacher is law. You wanted us to fight amongst ourselves for the bells, she exclaimed, followed by silence. I could imagine the gears spinning in Naruto's mind before it clicked, and he burst into a smile. So that's it? You don't want us to get the bells. You just want us to fight each other for them. Which is ruined if one of us does not want to. He slowly turned to me, dawning on him what I was trying to do. HN. I suppressed a smirk. Couldn't you just say so in the first place? Enough, Kakashi cut in, sounding resigned. Naruto, what was the purpose of this test? Wasn't it for us to work together and take you down as a team? So, do we all pass? The expression on his face clearly said he thought, but I can kick your ass on my own. Kakashi smiled. Suddenly the air around us felt heavy, an ominous feeling pressing down on me. It was like that, without a single weapon being withdrawn or a punch being thrown, but killing intent around us born out of irritation that Team 7 was formed. Let's go get a mission right now. Whoops, Kakashi, faster than I could blink, removed his hands from beneath Tora the cat just as Naruto handed it over to him at 3 in the afternoon, for the second time. Sorry. Letting out a strangled cry, Naruto charged after the animal, only to collide into a pole as the damn animal slunk around the structure, its backbone easily twisting around it. Naruto walked on 2 legs and had failed to mimic it. You did that on purpose. Sakura fell to her knees, at her limit. We still hadn't had lunch, or a proper breakfast in her and Naruto's case. Why would I? The elite ninja had the gall to fake offense, eyes still on his Aika. One day, I will burn that shit with Amaterasu. I took a look at Sakura, the poor girl already having taken several breaks due to dizziness and feeling lightheaded. Naruto, I said as he walked up behind me, massaging his head. Kakashi was still reading, but I had no doubt he was listening. We were making a temporary tactical retreat due to one of our members' poor and declining state of health, especially as it poses no danger to the mission. What? Speak plainly, said Naruto, then paused. I think that's the longest sentence you've ever spoken. Because our idiot of a Jounin-sensei ordered you to give the cat to him each time, and I'm this close to spouting Obishio's famous quote if he does not let us take care of Sakura. Sakura needs food. We're taking a break. Did you superior officer say you could? Kakashi drawled and 2 optimistic faces staring at him fell. You're just taking it out on us because we didn't fight each other for the bells like you wanted us to. Naruto shook his fist at the masked man, about to pounce before I grabbed the scruff of his jacket. Damn it, what kind of future Hokage lets his teammates suffer because of a stupid mission? Orders are orders. Follow the rules, idiot. I let an indignant Naruto go and turned around, less to actually search for the damn cat again, and more to hide my smirk as Kakashi flipped a page. Ma, go ahead. I didn't say you could not take a break. You guys go ahead, I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow? Sakura nearly collapsed out of relief, had Naruto not caught her. You heard me. He was gone in a swirl of leaves and I realized I had been holding my breath. Naeni, I know this really great ramen restaurant we can go to together, Sakura-chan. You can come too, Naruto added as we began to walk, although the look he shot me showed great reluctance, whether out of a refusal he was already expecting or the fact that he wanted to be with just Sakura. Fine. I spoke as if I was doing him a favor. It would have suspicious to high-five him. Instant food was my lifeblood. Because I rarely could afford to cook anything delicious myself, and the person responsible for me felt a ruffian like me could survive anything like a street dog, I had strong bond with food was warm and easy to make, such as cup ramen. Adding in an egg and a slice of cheese into the plastic container as it cooked was my idea of a lavish meal. Naruto and Sakura looked a bit stunned, and were quiet the rest of the way to Ichiraku Ramen. What would you like? Ayam asked me, gesturing to the board on the wall behind her which listed the menu alongside the prices for each meal. One glance told me that miso, along with being Naruto's favorite, was also the cheapest. Miso, I said to Ayam. Oh, that's Naruto's favorite. Her words caught the attention of the blonde sitting between me and Sakura. Eh? See, even an idiot can tell miso is the best. I was aware of that when she said it was your favorite, I retorted dryly. You. Naruto. No fighting at the table. Ayam spoke over the clatter of dishes as she began to set down our orders, all of them miso. Itadakimasu. We prayed in various volumes before Naruto attacked his bowl like he was feasting on Tora's flesh. Sakura's pace was also hurried whilst I had to restrain myself. Uchiha did not eat sloppily. I was trying to be without restraint, not manners. So, you guys are Naruto's new team, eh? Tucci looked over the counter when he got a break from the other customers. Yeah. We're gonna be the best team Ojaizen. I'm Haruno Sakura, Tucci-san. The ramen is delicious. Uchiha Sasuke. HN. Don't worry, he's always like that. Naruto clarified. It's like he has his own language. HN. See? Nothing to worry about. Well then, congratulations on become genin all of you. Here, another bowl for you on the house. It's tonkatsu this time. Tucci timed his present at the right time, when all of our bowls were empty and quickly replaced by another. Sakura looked a bit apprehensive and Naruto, who had probably heard about her diet in the morning, caught on instantly. Sakura-chan, you should eat more. You look like a skeleton. He's right, Ayam interjected. You'll thank yourself later when you're training. Yeah, you looked like you were gonna die on the mission. And that was only chasing after a cat. You'll need strength for when we go on real missions, believe it. HN. I encouraged eloquently. And Sakura, because she was smart, had an exasperated look as if she already knew the folly of her own mistakes. If anything, she looked averse to satisfying her hunger with fast food only, which was also of smart. In the end we finished and parted amicably, after Tucci-san refused to charge us for all the bowls we had eaten. Considering how much Naruto had gulped, I wondered if the man received funds from the Hokage to keep his restaurant from going into the red. More than likely. I decided to myself as I walked steadily to my training location. Because I need more practice. Once I had gone over Sasuke's knowledge, I had more to add from my own. It's not as if the world I had come from had no martial arts. Or that Naruto was the only anime I had watched. But first, water walking. Although I can feel my own chakra, I feel it only faintly from others, if they make no effort to conceal it. I fancy I could refine it to a limited extent, but Sasuke himself was not a natural sensor nin, relying more on Karen than his own ability. But there are no limits. If you know me, I'd probably jump off the Hokage monument in an attempt to create a jutsu for flying somehow. Thinking of great heights causes me to shudder. Report Kakashi. The Sandaime Hokage stood with his back to the masked jounin, gazing towards the village atop the red Hokage tower. While he asked simply for the sake of formality, the old man was curious. In all his years, Team 7 under Kakashi received a mission first, and was finalized later. I was unable to determine their combat prowess, but they don't make shabby work of tracking, and their teamwork was more than acceptable. Ah yes, Hiruzen mused. Catching Tora 3 times in one day was an accomplishment in itself. The animal was a fast learner with a good memory, giving genin a challenge each time it escaped, or was purposely let go. Anything worrying, individually? None, Hokage-sama. The most problematic would have been Sasuke, but contrary to his reports, he showed up nearly 2 hours late, understood the test in an instant, sought a solution without combat. Not that it's wrong, just... He was behaving like a Nara? The Hokage turned to the jounin behind him. Yes, Hokage-sama. I had expected he'd engage with me anyway and make an effort to take the bells, but he chose to be unconventional. I see. Dismissed. Ha! I exclaimed, standing with upside down beneath a branch, with the sun beginning to set and bathing the clearing in tones of orange and red. Visualization did make control easier. Although the end of the anime is filled with characters that are strong enough to belong in DBZ, the most proficient ninja like Kakashi and Itachi held their own through chakra control and intelligence, not simply the size of their techniques. I won't deny the prospect of larger reserves, but the fact remains that the copy nin who collapses after each battle or the genius who ends up coughing blood had more to them than their Sharingan, having no such factors enhancing their stamina or health. In other words, they were the closest ninjas to being human as I was before falling into this world, minus their chakra, the supply of which was ordinary compared to others. Back to the topic of efficiency, my Monotomo Sharingan allowed me to see the chakra I exuded from the soles of my feet, much to my glee, and allowed me to experiment. Rather than using chakra as an adhesive, covering my entire foot and then sticking it to a surface, I tried to reduce the surface area from which chakra exited my body. How? It involved running back to my apartment, without chakra, pure parkour for endurance, where Sasuke's memories told me was a complete anatomy scroll that listed all the tenketsu in the body. Once I memorized those, I returned back to practice, making a point to only release chakra from the area around my selected tenketsu. Anyone that has ever owned football shoes would realize the leap in efficiency when I had the method down to pat. Not before I littered my back with bruises and my legs trembled with exhaustion. Due to lesser surface area, I had to readjust to the amount of extra chakra because the weight of my body against gravity was still the same, and more tenketsu points had to be used than originally designated because the bark would crack frequently. Time required for this trial and error cut into other sections of my practice, but it worked since ninjutsu had to stop early due to how strained my chakra network was. With the night coming, I realized my Sharingan did grant me ease in training without a source of light, even if it was eerie watching the glowing red irises reflect in the surface of the pond. Imagine being alone in the night with a pair of red eyes staring back at you. I had to stop myself from skipping home on the way back because of how happy I was with my success. A warm bath helped relax my sore muscles before I headed out to buy food, and also visited a pharmacy to get some salve to help with the injuries I'd accumulated from falling too much. After a meal of onigiri, a 6-pack filled with various flavorings, I applied the salve and sat down shirtless for weapon maintenance, sharpening my kunai, carefully wiping my arsenal with an oiled cloth to prevent rusting before arranging my holster and pouches. They went into the bottom drawer of the dresser from where I'd take them tomorrow. Determined to wake up on time tomorrow, I turned the light off and went to bed. You're not even worth killing. But I'm worth betraying the village you killed the clan for, if anything were to happen to me. Foolish little brother. Your hatred is not strong enough. But you did what you did out of love. Hate me, detest me, curse me, and live in an unsightly way. Stop it. This hurts you more than it hurts me. Run away and cling to your pitiful life. Nizen, please. Please, I croaked, coming to. I had no will to move even my hand towards the bottle of water atop the side table. A dry throat was beneath my notice. It hurt, but there was no wound. My heart did not beat, it merely throbbed, and its suffering kept me alive. It felt like hours had passed before the call of nature forced me to move towards the bathroom. The mirror showed my haggard face, hair askew and Sharingan swimming in tears, with lines trailing down my face. I stroked my chest lazily, no longer feeling any pain beneath. Itachi. Before I could have taken out a kunai and slashed my own forehead protector to run away, I slapped myself awake. Then, splashing my face with cold water, I set about my daily routine mechanically. I had expected our team to do D ranks daily, but becoming a genin was the phase in our life where a ninja's greatest priority was training. A genin cell received about 2 to 3 D rank missions per week. Some were designed to be annoying, due to the fact that being able to hire ninjas was somewhat a status symbol. While an old lady with a hunching spine may hire us to take care of her garden and do her housework, without using any techniques, a merchant may have us patrol his house while he was away and cater to the whims of his wife. The main purpose of our missions, I assumed, was to build our social skills and camaraderie. Of course, I had to act cold as part of my character. I regularly left for training the moment after the meal Team 7 shared when we were dismissed by Kakashi-sensei for the day. Antisocial I was not, but I did not speak without prompting. Although I had known Japanese before to a certain extent, and my memories helped in a flash whenever confronted with kanji, much of what I wanted to say did not translate over well, never mind that civilians and some ninja in Konoha took sarcasm literally. Just one of the many obstacles to my immersion with the normal masses, I mentally sighed as I finished my breakfast. Today was our day off, meaning that we have no missions and Kakashi would not show up to occupy our time from morning to afternoon. The first time I sparred with the Jounin, I was equally excited and afraid. I had gotten into my fair share of fights back in the world with no chakra, but nothing as intense. Add that to concealing my Sharingan, I had never felt so worn out by afternoon. When Kakashi wasn't beating the stuffing out of the three of us, or half paying attention to our own spars and weaponry drills from behind his orange book, we were left on our own. Old dobe. Say something, bastard? Bet neither of you can hit me with a shuriken. I discovered that I liked to annoy Naruto. To break past his defenses without any malicious words and annoy someone who annoyed everyone else was one of the accomplishments I took pride in. Then, I ran for dear life as he created a ridiculous amount of clones and used me as target practice, Sakura joining in wholeheartedly when I tipped the match heavily into my favor by substituting myself with Naruto clones. Sakura's behavior was split between trying to be a Yamato Nadeshiko and an outspoken girl. She reached conclusions faster than a normal teenager, but in order to appear feminine in my presence, that is, according to some skewed mentality, submissive, she often ignored her talents. The only time she ever clocked Naruto was when he used his sexy jutsu, on which count I internally encouraged it. Although biased and quick to incense, she tried to be fair as she could. That particular day ended with me covered in all sorts of cuts and treating my team to one bowl of ramen each. Somehow, Kakashi managed to show up for free food. Today was a Saturday, and I had the whole day to myself to do anything. I needed to make most of it. After breakfast and cleaning up my apartment, I switched into a black variant of my outfit, and after a moment's thought, strapped on my weapons. The morning sun had barely risen when I reached Naruto's apartment, and rang the bell. During a derank to deliver some insignificant package to some insignificant customer, Naruto had pointed out the complex he lived in. I simply searched for a flat with the sufficient ramen cups disposed in its trash can. Like the bastard I was trying to portray, I rang the bell continuously until he yelled something incoherent, and wrenched the door open. Who the F.O.? He paused, still dressed in his night clothes and cap. Why are you here? It's our day off. Get dressed, we have things to do. I simply pushed the door open and walked past him, taking off my shoes in the appropriate place. I haven't even had breakfast yet, Naruto yelled at me. I was about to retort when the wall between his and the next apartment was banged, followed by a hungover voice, keep it down, brat. What monstrosity are you cooking up now? The sun is barely up. Well, someone was awake enough to be clever when putting their foot in their mouth this early. Naruto had gone still at the emphasized word, looking at me fearfully, before chuckling sheepishly. When he didn't even retort, I knew his wind had been knocked out of his sail. Sorry, my neighbor is. I slammed a fist back into the shared wall, and shot back in a monotone, the sun was up almost half an hour ago. Before facing Naruto's slackened expression. There was more bustling on the other side of the wall before the same disgruntled male yelled, shut the fuck up, damn demonic brat. Naruto was quickly shifting his eyes between me and the wall. I folded my arms. What prank did you pull on him? Huh? The Jinchuriki of the QB stared and stared at me, still looking insecure. Idiot, lay off the pranks so people don't call you a demon. I tapped my forehead protector, as if to remind him of our current station as shinobi. Hurry up and eat your breakfast. Pretending to be misdirected was the key to avoiding an awkward encounter. Naruto's relief was palpable as he took out a box of cereal and milk from the fridge, before filling it in a ramen bowl for a hefty breakfast. Understandably, the Uzumaki did not survive on a diet of ramen. If he ever fell ill due to a deficiency of vitamins and minerals, his healing could not do much. His body just wouldn't be able to synthesize what he needed, accelerated regeneration be damned. I waited patiently for Naruto to finish, staying quiet because he had a habit of focusing on a person and ignoring everything else when in a conversation. Unless it was at Ichiraku Ramen, where I suspected he knew he was a hassle to the other customers and did not want to trouble the generous Tuchi-san. So, what did you want? Naruto spoke as he strapped on his sandals, dressed in his orange suit. Kakashi-sensei said to rest so our muscles have a chance to heal themselves and come back stronger, but I already feel healed, believe it. I need a favor. I stood from his small round table, and put my hands in my pockets. A favor? The blonde asked, tilting his head, and I feigned annoyance at my own words. Why would you need a favor from me? Because you're suited to the task. I ground out, seeming more reluctant by the second. Something that even the great Uchiha Sasuke can't do? I gritted my teeth. I'm trying to be nice, you annoying piece of work. As much as I like to rile up Naruto, the exchange worked both ways. Acknowledging what you can and can't do is also a sign of greatness. Unlike assuming a genin fresh out of the academy can take something from a jounin. Naruto twitched. What do you want? I smirked for a fraction of a second before donning my expressionless mask. How long can your clone hold a hench? Somewhere in our team training during last week, my right Sharingan had obtained 2 tomo. The need for training it with more intensity became apparent, if just Naruto and Sakura could make me kick my bloodline up a notch. Upon pondering, the solution had me rubbing my temples last night. Contact lenses existed in Konoha, but I needed to keep it discreet. Such a purchase would be expensive enough without the suspicion surrounding why some with a dojutsu would buy a pair. That's where Naruto, with his skills at transformation and social observation, came in, not to mention a shadow clone which would help him with an alibi. Naruto understood my plan quickly, and although he seemed confused and suspicious, went through with it. His shadow clone snuck out the apartment before us after I handed him the money. So, wanna train? Naruto asked, swaying back and forth on the balls of his feet. I said as he locked his door behind me. If you wanted to, I wouldn't mind, but my entire body was sore from yesterday. Kakashi had made us earn our day off, having us block swinging logs with our bodies to toughen them up. I still think he found it humorous as we failed to dodge, and got battered with many times our body weight. The only consolation was one day our opponent would feel like they were punching metal, as we did when our blows landed on our sensei. I thought so too. Sakura-chan must be tired from yesterday. How about we just hang out? Naruto carried on as I observed some people on the street give him sideway glances, or ignore him completely. I said with a nod to show my agreement. Naruto smacked me hard on the shoulder, causing me to hiss as I flailed around a bit to keep my balance. I ached all over, and the task was made easier by the fact that I was in mid-step with my hands in my pocket. We walked straight ahead for a while, until my teammate turned to me and asked, "How much longer till Sakura's house?" I stopped, turning to him slowly. "I thought you knew her address." "Hey, I'm an admirer, not a stalker." "I'm surprised you can distinguish between two." "Of course I can. Gigi taught me everything I need to know about girls." I couldn't help myself at the image of Sandaime, in all his wisdom, trying to explain to Naruto how to act with the opposite gender. No wonder the blonde was so indignant about perverts. The person he treasured above all taught him how to respect women. "Did you just laugh?" Naruto turned on me, defensive. I schooled myself instantly. "Not at you." He scrunched his face, mulling over my words, before his eyes caught something in the distance. "Why is that guy walking on his hands? Looks kinda familiar too." Could it be? I spun around in the direction he pointed, and sure enough, Mato Guy was walking on his hands, gracing the streets of Konoha with his brand of craziness. Before I could say something, Naruto had ran ahead to ask just why he was doing so. And despite the fact that my body was wired to wake up before sunrise, my thoughts went, it's way too early for this shit. "Greetings, young genin." Guy flipped to his feet. I realized that he was covered in sweat, yet not a single drop had landed on us. "Why am I doing this, you inquire?" I had promised myself I would do 1,000 push-ups after dinner, otherwise I would walk around the whole village on my hands 10 times. Most unfortunate it is that I feel asleep around the 9,999. Would you care to join me? Naruto shook his head, speechless, before something clicked in his mind and he froze, jumping back and pointing his finger at the jounin. "Ah, you're the pervert who was beating his own crotch last week." My facade shattered and I gaped at Naruto. Guy's thick eyebrows disappeared into his hair while he nervously glanced around the streets to see if anyone had heard. "Naruto! He's a jounin!" I whispered as stressfully I could. "A jounin? That doesn't mean he's not a pervert." Naruto shot back equally, voice echoing in the early morning hours. The trouble was, Naruto was a terrible liar, and such an accusation was never his idea of a prank. One didn't need the Sharingan to know that. Ahem. Guy cleared his throat seriously and both us stood ramrod straight. "It seems your friend must have seen me during one of my unconventional, but necessary training. You were beating your crotch in the abandoned building next door." Repeatedly. Naruto again pointed his finger at the green beast of Konoha. I looked between my teammate and the jounin who I knew was weird, but certainly did not gratify himself in abandoned public place. "Please, deny it for the sake of sanity, Guy-san." "No!" Guy protested, "that was not it." "Then what?" Naruto challenged. "It was to build immunity against below-the-belt attacks in case they are used by opponents who are not youthful." "I appreciate the plausible reasoning, but did you have to do it somewhere outside your home?" Guy went on to say more things while I tried to calm myself. I had no qualms about messing about the so-called canon with this meeting, for I am one of those who wish for the strength to walk a hard path than easier one, like Naruto. But this was ridiculous. What had I gotten myself into? Isn't that right, young Uchiha-kun? Guy finished his monologue, looking at me with hope while gesturing towards Naruto. It was quite intentional, but one must never let the good moments go to waste. I'm sorry, what did you say? What? Guy shouted. What a calm and hip attitude you have there, young genin. Is your teacher possibly the even more chic Hatake Kakashi? Yeah. What about Kakashi-sensei? Do you guys read perverted novels together? Naruto shot back as Guy gave the youth an exasperated smile and began to initiate his eternal rival spiel. I massaged my temples slowly. Still too goddamn early for this shite. In the end, he failed to convince to Naruto he wasn't a pervert and quickly left on his hands lest the people now walking among the streets hear my orange-clad teammate loud rebuttals. When he was gone, I suggested trying the library and Naruto readily agreed, seeing as Sakura was smart and therefore visited places with lots of books. In other words, same reasoning as me, only more honest. How do you even know that guy? I asked when we began to walk again. Oh, the thick-browed, perverted weirdo who calls himself Kakashi-sensei's eternal rival? Naruto ruffled the hair at his nape. I couldn't sleep the night I passed the exam, because I was finally a ninja and on a team, so I decided to check the building next door where I hide all the random stuff I find. At my raised brow he paused rambling and explained, for pranks, not that you'd care. Anyway, I sneak in and I hear these weird grunting noises in the complete dark, like UA. Ugh. Ha! But it was coming from the room I keep my stuff in and I fixed the bulb in that one, so I turn it on and the blonde paused to spread his legs apart and raise a fist. He's standing like this, smashing his thing like mad. He stops seconds after the light comes on though, but I run away before he sees me or recovers from whatever he was doing. Naruto's eyes takes on a vacant look. I did not sleep that night. HN. I awkwardly pat his shoulder as we reached the library. By sheer luck, Sakura was in, reading a novel at an empty rectangular table with a gray backpack leaning against her chair. There were 4 plain seats on each side with 2 at its widths. Naruto and I sat down on either side of her. Hey Sakura-chan, what you up to? Naruto asked in the quietest voice I'd ever heard him use. Naruto? Sasuke-kun? Why are you guys here? We're bored cause Kakashi-sensei said no training today and came to hang. I pulled him along cause he didn't say no. What are you readin'? Just a fiction novel, Sakura whispered, narrowed green eyes telling Naruto to whisper properly. Sometimes they slip in the actual seals for jutsus, did you know? Really? Naruto asked more quietly, although both our attention was on her now. Sakura slightly blushed, before nodding. Like your shadow clone technique. It's in here, but I thought it was something the author just made up, especially because no other jutsu uses that seal. HN, look underneath the underneath, I spoke at last, making eye contact with my female teammate. Any other jutsus? There is only one more, which is what I came for here. You know how Kakashi-sensei is always disappearing on us with those leaves falling? Yeah. Naruto, excited as he was getting, whispered like he was in a helicopter. No one around us chastised him. The collective stares of every other person in vicinity, from few ninjas to the civilians, were enough to remind him of the proper conduct of being in a library merits. Right, Sakura huffed. That's called the Shunshin no Jutsu, a D-rank one that only requires 1 seal. I don't know which one because it varies in many places, but it's always 1 seal or none. If it requires just 1 seal, why doesn't Kakashi-sensei teach us? And how do you know it's D-rank? Naruto asked. Even I was curious, and added a HN to his statement. Now enjoying having a small audience, Sakura smiled lightly. Any jutsu not taught in the academy is above E rank, and C ranks are generally more offensive or defensive than an in-between like D ranks are, which often involve augmentation that means supplement, or add something extra to, Naruto via taijutsu or bukijutsu. Shunshin falls into that category, as it can be used for evasion or charging or simply getting to places like our sensei does. I would like to let my jaw hang open like Naruto, but that would be unbecoming of an Uchiha. I can now see why Sasuke married this girl. She's sort of super special awesome. While Sakura-chan, Naruto was more vocal in his praise, that was amazing. HN. One corner of my mouth turns upward and the look in my eye all but says I'm impressed. It's N nothing. The girl stares into her lap, hair failing to cover her blush. Nothing ordinary. I mutter and then suddenly find the chair opposite to me very fascinating. The square frame, the horizontally nailed planks, the plain design. Did he just give you a compliment? I glared at Naruto, who replied with a shit-eating grin. Sakura nudged him to stop and he dropped it. If it's D rank, I'm gonna ask Kakashi-sensei to teach it to me tomorrow. The blonde switched topics, mirth still evident in his blue eyes. I doubted that, considering he treated us the same as teenager, expecting us to act like adults while treating us like kids, not mention he'd need substantial proof our loyalty to the village to learn its arts. According to Sasuke's memories, all scrolls taken from the Uchiha compound post-massacre were in the village archive, where techniques from many other clans were also located. The Uchiha scrolls weren't locked with any special or specific Fuinjutsu since that was not the strength of my clan, but they'd require a Sharingan to read. Oh Danzo, you son of a biscuit! Sakura sighed. He won't Naruto. Jounin-sensei often do not teach genin jutsus before they've had them for a year at least, due how inexperienced they are. Naruto frowned, so she elaborated, a genin using Shunshin can collide into face first into something, receive a serious injury or even death, if something happens like them smashing their face and driving their nose into their brain. Horror slowly dawned on his face, and Team 7's most intellectual genin twisted the knife further. And in using a Shunshin, even Jounin are hard-pressed to stop their students. Naruto nodded silently, completely deflated. Sakura giggled before suggesting that we also get something to read. But my kanji is really bad. Like really, really bad, Sakura-chan. Then pick up a dictionary and start learning. The pink-haired girl put her hand on her hips. There's a spare notebook in my bag you can use. Sheesh, what did you even learn at the academy? How much do you know? I walked around to search for a dictionary my teammate could use, and picked a book titled The Second Ninja War off the history shelf. Wordlessly, I hand it to the blonde who raises his eye at my other book. We sat in silence while I flipped through something that has always intrigued me, Hatake Tsukumo's infamous mission that besmirched his entire reputation. And what a reputation it was. During the Second War, before the Sannin were knighted, Konoha's fame was carried by Sarutobi Hiruzen and Hatake Tsukumo. Before the Yellow Flash came onto the field, enemies feared having to face Konoha's White Fang in battle. The way history was written was flavored with bias, but the thought of being from the same village as this man did ignite patriotic pride within me. He was the third Hokage's first pick in times of chaos, and before his last mission none of his assignments had been an outright failure. Under a subheading titled Hatake's Fall from Grace was the following paragraph. The fact that an S-rank mission assigned to a shinobi came to light in public is of shame itself, where not only was Captain Hatake found negligent of abandoning his objectives, breaking almost every line written on the shinobi rules of conduct, it compromised Konoha's dignity. Uncensored reports showed that it was an assassination on a classified target who took hostage one of the men under Hatake's command. Instead of putting the needs of the many before the needs of the few, Captain Hatake aborted the mission and returned with his men alive, but our hard-earned reputation in tatters. Oh. The reputation as a bleeding heart we've taken advantage for who knows how long on the surface. Our PR department sure can run some splendid damage control. And to choose between a life in front of you and the ones you cannot see, it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. Maybe the opponent was strong enough to kill or injure his team even if Hatake did defeat him. This was a time where medic nin were rare, so chances of them living if any did survive were perhaps among the lowest in history. Maybe the mission was meant to sacrifice them anyway, or could have been beyond Tsukumo's caliber. He was human after all. Oh wait, that's not allowed when you become a shinobi. Sasuke-kun? The book might get damaged. Sakura's soft voice came from next to me and I blinked, slowly breathing in and out. Without me knowing, I had the book in an iron grip, thumbnails biting into the aged pages. Sorry. I closed it without reading further. Tsukumo was the opposite of Itachi, someone who put his comrades before the village. Both tried to be heroes, and both would be scorned no matter what the truth. Hey, it's way past 12. Let's go get lunch. Naruto excited whisper broke my tense thoughts. I stood up slowly. No matter what anyone thinks, I think you're a hero, Tsukumo-san. I thought as I placed the book back into the shelf. Sakura checked out another small book which she assured the librarian lady she would finish by tonight and hand it in tomorrow, and we headed off towards Ichiraku Ramen. See you tomorrow, Naruto, Sasuke-kun, Sakura chirped as she skipped towards her own home. We boys had simply agreed, through telepathic rival eye contact, to walk Sakura to her house first in order to know her address, after which we headed towards Naruto's apartment. Hey, there it is! The blonde exclaimed, tossing off his shoes to rush to a brown bag on his dining table. Here you go. I opened it, before looking at the receipt, frowning. This costs more money than I gave you. Yeah, my clone came back to get some from my secret savings and then took a second trip to buy it, whatever you need them for. Inside the bag was a 500 milliliters bottle of solution along with 2 small cases that held black cosmetic lenses. The answer to using my Sharingan in public but keeping it hidden. For all we get on each other's nerves and call each other names, Naruto really went out of his way for me. Thank you? No problem. We stood there awkwardly, before I cleared my throat. Do you want to know what I need them for? You don't have to force yourself to tell someone like me. He held up his hands, looking nervous. His choice of words revealed his anxiety. I couldn't tell if he was genuinely that kind, or sucking up to me, afraid that I'd start acting the way I did in academy. I knew that feeling, of wasting whatever money you have on pricks who let you walk around with them but don't include you at all, leaving you torn between hoping that one day you'll stop being lonely among people or staying away and acknowledge you are certainly lonely. You went out of your way for me. I trust you can keep a secret? I channeled chakra to my eyes, tinting my vision red. Whoa! What's wrong with your eyes? Naruto yelled, pointing at me. Keep it down, dope. I nearly stomped my foot at his actions, before explaining to him what a bloodline limit is, and giving examples. Huh. That explains why some people's eyes are so weird. But why do you want to keep yours hidden? Just because. Keeping your abilities hidden is also a skill. But will you tell Sakura? Naruto asks, understanding she would feel left out. He knew how that felt. Tomorrow. But let's keep it a surprise for Sensei. Alright. I'll keep this secret forever and won't let you down, believe it? I do, my friend. Morning. I greeted, resisting the urge to massage my sore temples as I reached the mission office. Ever since Naruto got me contact lenses, I've been keeping my Sharingan on so much that the cost at which it uses chakra is now not noticeable, but the muscles around my eyes feel fatigued. When we told Sakura about my awakened bloodline, she was joyful and a bit confused but found that keeping things secret added more to my mysterious charm. A charm so mysterious even I knew nothing about it. Morning, Sasuke-kun. The girl waved, standing next to the door waiting. Naruto was furiously pacing along the corridor, still not used to Kakashi showing up late. Not giving up hope that one day our teacher would be on time had its consequences. I leaned against a wall at an appropriate distance from Sakura and pulled out a juicy apple from my pouch as per routine, to no one's surprise. Team 7 had also learned that I rarely offered on my own unless they asked, or looked long enough causing me to hold one out. I dared not toss one to them, for fear of them not catching it. He's late. Why is he always late? Naruto, the day Kakashi-sensei arrives on time is the day you become Hokage. Sakura muttered, bouncing her heel against the wall. I hid my frown behind another bite of apple. Perhaps she meant nothing by it. Perhaps she found Naruto's efforts inadequate. It would be easy to draw that conclusion, considering I had once kept count and taken out 74 of his shadow clones before he landed a punch on me in a spar, or that Sakura's aim and use of the Academy Technique's bar transformation was better than his. The only apparent thing Naruto had going for him was his vast chakra reserves and trapping skills, alongside stamina. Ha! So that's why he wastes so much time being late. If I become the Hokage, I can order him to be on time. The double door to the office opened and a black-haired Chunin poked her head out, naturally fierce eyes fixing on Naruto for a moment to stop his pacing before turning to us. Hokage-sama has called for you to come inside. Gigi? Sure, let's go. Naruto gave the kunoichi a respectful distance as he passed, and we followed, me casually throwing the apple core into a dustbin situated in the corner of the room successfully without a glance. Naruto, the Hokage intoned as we stood in front of him. Iruka was absent at the moment, and people I didn't know flanked the man in the spiffy red hat, doing paperwork. Kakashi is on a mission, but I've found just the chore task for Team 7. You were gonna say chore? Naruto protested. No. The Hokage's upper lip twitched fondly as he gazed back. Nua! You totally were gonna. What mission do you have for us, Hokage-sama? Sakura cut in, looking at Naruto from the corner of her eye, all but saying zip it. Ah yes, no scroll for you this time, Sarutobi said. Team 8 has already been assigned, you are to go assist them. This is a time-sensitive matter on multiple accounts, so I suggest you make haste towards Nawatari-san's farm, located in District 12. We nodded, while Naruto punched the air. Finally a real mission. Later then, Jay. We jumped out of the buildings and took the roof, immediately heading towards our direction. Hey, it's Naruto and his team. Kiba announced as we landed into view, resting with his team on the triple-storied farmhouse's porch. "Hey you guys!" Naruto cheered. "So, what's the situation? Aren't you eager?" Kurenai-sensei spoke from behind us, and we jumped, instantly reaching for weapons before we recognized her. Good instincts. So here's your mission. By the time she finished, I was genuinely brooding. Sakura had her shoulders drooping and Kiba was laughing at Naruto's outrage. Nawadori-san was going to hand over 100 or so chickens to his friend who was opening up a new restaurant at around 10 this morning, but when he sent his son to check them at dawn, the moron had left the coop unlocked and all of them had 2 hours to escape before anyone noticed. Nawadori-san and his wife were too old to search for long or far, their son too young to send him into the trees that line the farm. Konoha has forests both outside and inside its walls. The friend would come to collect the stock at somewhere around 9, and it was somewhere around 8:30 now. Approximately 30 minutes left and around 40 or so chickens to capture. And unlike white poultry-bred things, these were brown-feathered little creatures, which were lost in a forest that blocked out much of the sun and gave them camouflage. Not that my team can handle it, but Kakashi wanted his team to have a tracking mission besides Tora. All of us, even Team 8, twitched at the name of that damn cat. "Oh, and you can't use any of the cages," Kurenai finished, eyes sliding towards the small street crates meant to transport birds. "Great, we have to carry them all back by hand." Sakura gave a resigned sigh, all too used to Kakashi-sensei and his extra instructions. "You'd better get started, less than half an hour to go." The beautiful Jounin smiled. "Also, no shadow clones for Naruto." "Gee, good luck, why you guys?" Hinata encouraged meekly. I looked to her to show that I heard, nodding before we dispersed, making a beeline for the trees. "Hey Sasuke," Naruto began as landed on branches inside the shadows of trees. I turned to him with my arms folded, a gesture meant to warn him to be discreet about the Sharingan, also informing him that I knew his question before he voiced it. "What do we do?" he amended quickly. Kurenai had to be around somewhere, if she had to keep a watch on Naruto not using his clones. "I've got wire to tie them together, so we don't have to continuously run back and forth between the farm and here." I took out my entire spool, enough to set up a web in the trees using kunais and began to measure it for equal distribution. "Sakura, any plans?" The pink-haired girl shook her head. "No, we better split up. I'll take the center, you take the left, and Naruto takes right. You have your flares for emergencies, right?" They nodded, then we scattered towards the ground. Sharingan completely hidden behind my black lenses, I combed the forest floor. A blue mist began diffusing into the corners of my field of view, reducing with it the sounds of the morning forest around me, until it was quiet. Too quiet. Kai. I disrupted the flow of my chakra and the sound of something scurrying among the soil and roots came from the right. An auditory genjutsu. I bolted towards it and was rewarded with a brown hen, which I quick to subdue. Laying it on its side, I placed the kunai in its line of view and slashed away from it, making it go limp. And my teachers thought me watching random videos on YouTube would never help me in any way. Quickly I tied it up and rushed to the right side of the forest, using chakra to propel myself. If Kurenai was going to mess with us, then Naruto had no chance as he was, and I had no idea about Sakura's prowess. The Sharingan let me pick out 2 more targets along the way before I ran into my teammate. As I had feared, he had his hands wrapped around rock, pinning to the floor. "I've got you now." I could have pulsed my chakra through him, but the sight made me want to punch. So I conked him on the head, "Wake up, Yujiratanki." "Ouch, what was that for you bast? Hey, this ain't a chicken." Genjutsu. "Oh." Naruto smiled sheepishly, ruffling his hair. "I think she got mad I tried to make a shadow clone. It got hit with a shuriken damn fast." I frowned. "When?" "Only a minute ago." Which meant she had raced past me. Wow. Whether she had stayed unnoticed while I rushed here with my Sharingan vigilant, or had taken a longer path to not be detected by me, a Jounin stealth or speed was no joke. Holy Madara, I had a long way to go. Kurenai watched as Team 7 finally formed after years when the number was assigned to the legendary Hatake Kakashi. "Sensei, is this not too harsh?" "Why, you ask?" Shino looked towards his teacher. "Because tired as we are a tracking squad, while Team 7 is not. To say nothing of the extra stipulations attached to them." Kurenai gave a half-smile towards the little deep thinker on her team. "Relax, Shino. I won't let a failed D rank be on our record." "Relax?" Kiba parroted. Man, I'm surprised they even accepted, like it was normal. How crazy is this Kakashi guy? Don't worry, I'll go check on them, Kurenai said and vanished in a swirl of leaves. Please tell she isn't going to do what I think she is, Kiba asked his teammates. When they said nothing, he smirked. Those poor bastards won't know what hit them. Kurenai reached Team 7 easily, staying hidden and eavesdropping on their conversation. As expected, the Uchiha genius seemed to take leadership, and quickly devised a method, an inconvenient, but time-efficient one before they split up. Now then, she thought as she began with Sasuke, weaving her hands for an auditory deprivation genjutsu over him. The lad was continuously scanning his surroundings, and expected to develop his bloodline someday. Perhaps he would remember a lesson about not all genjutsu being focused on sight. Barely had her trap been set when the raven-haired genin stopped walking, and instantly dispelled it. And he didn't even use his Sharingan. What followed was even stranger, as the genin captured a chicken and immediately made it go limp, by sketching a simple line in front of the animal's eye with his kunai, and then secured its claws together, grabbing it by its back and took off to the right. Snapping out of her surprise, Kurenai followed as Sasuke sprinted off into the direction of his blonde teammate, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Grinning slightly, the genjutsu specialist easily overtook the genin and reached first. Taking out a shadow clone coincidentally as soon as he made it, she ensnared the intellectually weakest link on the team easily, convincing his brain that a rock near him was a chicken. Sasuke reached sooner than she would have liked, but he wasn't the Rookie of the Year for nothing. Not wasting any time, he punched his teammate on the head before they both rushed towards their third teammate. The two boys then began to run towards their last teammate to change their plan. Kurenai would never admit she was having fun screwing air, teaching Kakashi's students how to run when their enemy was a genjutsu user, continuously changing the scenery, messing with their sense of balance and sanity in general by mismatching the movement of their lips with the words they spoke. At least she was subtly guiding them towards the Nawadori-san's chickens to save their time and trouble. I was only one step away from using the fireball jutsu in a forest with plenty of combustible twigs and leaves. Naruto had taken to continuously hitting himself to get rid of the continuous assault on us. He couldn't pulse his chakra yet, and I was getting a headache from trying to locate it where the jounin, but the moment I caught sight of her chakra she shifted. Naruto, screw the rules. Get to Sakura, use as many shadow clones as you can. No way. That crazy lady wins if I use my. He slapped his face. Shadow clones. I'm not gonna give up. It might be endearing to a viewer of the anime how Naruto never gave up, but at times like these, I wish had a moment to bash my head against a tree trunk. On the way we had encountered 10 more chickens, and after hypnotizing them to sleep, we lugged them on our back, Naruto taking 7 while I took 6, even if Kurenai was just as batty as Kakashi. Well, all in a day's D-rank. I hope Asuma's cigarettes give him erectile dysfunction. When we reached Sakura, to her brief surprise, we found her tying a 7th chicken to a fallen branch with a much smaller length of the total ninja wire I had given her. She gave us a look at how we were carrying our targets, before sighing. Naruto relayed everything that had happened and the pink-haired girl groaned. And things were going so peacefully for me, but then you had to show up. She grumbled, before taking out a watch, with its straps removed to look at the time. Only 10 minutes to go, and we have 20 of the chickens. How did you get so many? Naruto questioned, looking between my batch, asleep and now stirring, and Sakura's, all of them squawking noisily. Throw some rocks randomly, and they start running around or making noise. This won't work because now Kurenai-san is here and won't let it be that easy. The pink-haired girl leaned against a tree, wiping some sweat off her brow. Unlike what I had initially thought, Naruto's sense of smell and hearing was average. Sakura's stamina wouldn't keep up with us if we were to keep running. And flightless birds now tied to long branches like living piñatas. Wasn't that a morbid thought? The two turned to me for guidance. Let's think of something while we drop these off first, I said, taking out a kunai and holding one of the chickens still with my other hand. Team, what are you doing? Naruto watched as the bird under my grip went limp. Did it just die? Shut up, Do. I grumbled, motioning them to hurry. It's asleep and won't struggle. Where did you learn this, Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked as she copied me. Seeing his crush doing what I was, Naruto also sat down to it. I said nothing and we went off and dropped the birds to Team 8, where Kurenai was sitting next to Hinata like she had never left. Judging from their faces, they knew what was going on, but I was satisfied at the fact that we had captured more chickens than expected when we dropped them. Only 8 minutes left. Kurenai smiled gently as she stood up. 19 more to go, well done. Where are you going? Naruto scrunched his fact at her. To gather the rest of them, she answered innocently, raising the orange-clad boy's hackles. What? No way. We don't need your pity, believe it. Not to mention she'd do no such thing anyways. Naruto? Sakura cracked knuckles even as she smiled. I dismissed her as well, for once agreeing with Naruto. Looking at Kurenai, I stood as straight as I could and used my most condescending tone. Don't underestimate us. Just rest, you need more than us anyway. Sasuke-kun. Sakura whined, or maybe scolded at my attitude. Good. Kurenai commented. My team is rested, and the mission is about the client, so take whatever help you can get. And that's not a suggestion. Red eyes rested on at the last comment, causing me to grumble internally. Sometimes you forget jounin are not high school teachers you can sass to. Sakura, pair up with Inuzuka and take the right side of the forest. I cut into the chatter between Kurenai and her students, who were under the impression the jounin would help personally to end the mission what with barely 5 minutes to go. Naruto, go with Hyuga. Aburame, come with me. Hey, who made you leader? Kiba leaned close to me, trying to assert dominance. I would have suggested the same. Shino cut in, looking at Kiba sharply. Unless you have more objections to waste time? Fine. The tattoo-faced boy had no choice when met with the approval of the strategist on his team. We scattered once more, Team 7 taking hold of the cages for capturing chickens. The reason for divisions was simple. I didn't want Sakura around Shino for fear of how she would act around him, and I also wanted him around me to see how well my Sharingan picked up on his Kakachu beetles. Sakura would do well to keep up with Kiba, her secret, competitive streak and his personality a perfect recipe for it. And the last pairing, Naruto and Hinata, was simply for fun. Thank you very much. You really helped me keep my word. The old man with a white mustache, tanned down to his neck and arms, bowed his head, leaning on a cane. It was no problem, Kurenai spoke like there were no sweaty and disheveled genin standing her. We have to go report back to the mission office now. Oh, of course. Thank you again, and here's your scroll. Nawadori handed her the mission scroll after scribbling his signature on it. Well, boys and girls, I'll go ahead and deliver this to Hokage-sama. You're dismissed for the day. Kurenai said, disappeared in a swirl of leaves. I should really learn the body flicker. We walked for a while, before Naruto sidled up to me, trying to be secretive but looking all the more suspicious. Hey Sasuke, is it just me or is Hinata weird? I looked into the sky, shielding my eyes from the sun. I had to have expected it, I did expect it, and yet when faced with it, I couldn't help but think. Can I go a single day without wanting to punch him in the face? You're also weird, but we're friends. Why not make friends with her too? I whispered back, aware of 4 other eavesdroppers. But she's so quiet. She didn't say one word and didn't even look at me. Like me at the academy? Yeah, but like a million times less of a jerk. I glared at him, masking the tilt of my head with a sigh to see if Shino had us bugged with my Sharingan. It didn't provide magnification, but did improve resolution. Finding ourselves clear as best as I could, I went in for the truth. So many messes are born in real life due to miscommunication, countless opportunities missed because of ignorance, and I was having none of that. Does she seem nervous, avoid eye contact, or blush? Yeah, Naruto exclaimed, causing the other 4 to jump and me wishing I could punch him for talking loudly into a person's ear. The blonde looked around, embarrassed, and then continued at a much lower volume. So you do know what is it, N.E. When a girl is like that around a boy, I deadpanned, it means she likes him. What? Naruto jumped, attracting even more curious look from our fellow genin. He openly looked at Hinata, before looking at me, before looking back at Hinata, who had now begun to look away and poking her fingers. His mouth open in shock and standing listless was how I left Naruto, patting my teammate's shoulder and disappeared off to train. It had been 3 weeks since I had come into this world, and finally I was able to walk on water, even when the surface was slightly disrupted. In order to stand, I had been unable to use the tenketsu only approach as with solid surfaces. What I could do was focus on release chakra from beneath the balls of my feet and heels. But today was a new experiment. I hadn't used any jutsus when tree walking because all I knew were fire-natured ones. Now, it was time to test if I could stay on the surface while water walking. Katon, Gokakyu no Jutsu. Like a dam breaking forth, the chakra within me swelled and I exhaled like a dragon, the fireball burning orange, and my feet held. Excited, I added another focused burst of chakra, which tinged the edges of my jutsu red. During my earlier attempts, I had hit upon another way to better execute the fireball jutsu. When one used their chakra, the energy already available reached the site of the jutsu first, such as, in the fireball jutsu, where the locus of the technique was the mouth, chakra transferred from the upper body first, rising from the chest, shoulders, arms to the mouth. Then the chakra you had molded came into play, going straight from the belly, the chakra central, to the justa location. The more coils your chakra had to pass through, the more of its original power were lost as it traveled. And due to how sensitive I was to the movement of my own chakra, I exploited this admittedly untested theory of mine. When I focused on drawing chakra simply from my navel to my mouth, the fireball was smaller than my prior attempts, not having enough chakra with me focusing on fewer pathways and mentally blocking others, but it was hotter. Steadily, I cut off the technique and stood still. I had at last managed to regain the size of the fireball jutsu to its maximum, but it was better than ever before and my breathing was even. Breaking all decorum, I let out a whoop, before cranking my neck and readying myself once more. I'm just getting started. Normal days had a pattern of waking up, breakfast, going to train with Kakashi, lunch with teammates, self-training to exhaust myself enough for no dreams, taking a relaxing bath, buying dinner and tomorrow's breakfast, sharpen my weapons and go to sleep. Many a time I had no will to get up, weary from yesterday, and the day before, ad infinitum. But training gave me direction, and kept me sheltered from a world which tried my patience each day when I pondered too long over it. Nothing new, but seeking the light each time I delved into the darkness that was hidden in this world took more effort. Today was not a normal day, with Naruto acting like a petulant child in the mission office. Turns out, the wave mission had been taken by another team, and Kakashi was sent as backup to them, without us. An individual jounin charged more than one with a genin cell, which was good for us, and not so good for our customers. But we didn't want the best solution, instead of the most expensive one. I had read the mission guide and seen how missions were administrated. D ranks were strictly within the village, and allowed the clients a little space for additional comments on the mission scrolls they had to sign. They were the only ones which strictly did not require one's nationality to belong the land of fire. D ranks helped build a friendly rapport with the villagers and also allowed insight into the perception of a shinobi from a villager's point of view. C ranks were mainly designed to be escort or fast delivery missions, sometimes internal but mostly external. And all external missions required upfront payment amounting to half the overall money, except for A ranks. Those took full, since the fatality, and hence failure rate, was higher. Upfront payment that a certain bridge builder did not have, and any sensible person will tell you never accept a loan or present an IOU to a ninja village. Not to mention hire a cell of jounin for an A rank, the Hokage did risk losing even one of those by curtailing many solo assignments. Konoha had no banks, and many clans, like the Konoha treasury, were secured by decades-old fuinjutsu, a gift for allying ourselves with Yuzushio. The small safe under my bed was also a rare artifact, designed to transfer all its contents to within the village's treasury if it were to be forcibly opened or the wrong combination used. Back to the topic, the end result was that the bridge was built, but had tax booths on both sides of it, operated by civilians but watched over by ninjas. Soon even they would leave, but the money would still flow steadily from that venture. So other than the discounts Konoha had wrangled on imports from Wave, we also had a completely separate source of income, considering how much traffic was beginning to flow along the bridge. Of course, I was sure some other shady shite was also up as the Hokage tried to give Naruto a lesson about social studies, considering this also gave us the leverage to deploy our own shinobi into the land of waves, for protection of the bridge among other things, if required. Ah, the beauties of third world politics. But Gigi, I want a C rank. We had to catch chickens. How did they even get lost in a forest? I swear it's like someone took them and hid them in the Naruto accused with confidence, trailing off to sudden enlightenment. Were jounin above sabotaging missions of their genin? I had left before any proper conversation had begun between us and Team 8 to know. Playing in Uchiha was not conducive to socializing among peers, even if it gave me more time to train. The Hokage coughed, but the Sharingan caught twitches of his facial muscles and the movement of his larynx seemed to be forced, thus he was likely hiding a laugh. Sneaky old codger. Naruto, Kakashi flicked a page, other hand in his pocket. I think you've gone far enough. But Kakashi I smiled, an action automatically associated with the Tora mission, which had us on edge. He wouldn't, would he? I suppose I do have a C rank for you. Or rather, will, if you report tomorrow. The Hokage said at last, when our nerves were strained enough, and I sighed along with Sakura. Naruto punched the air. Finally! I knew it was time. What's it about? An escort mission. The Hokage shuffled around his desk, before finding a scroll from the stack across him. If we're lucky, it will turn into an A rank like that one in Wave, believe it! Here was the daily moment where I felt like decking him in the face. Oh my sweet summer child. I watched as Kakashi actually punched the blonde idiot's cranium, eyes never leaving Aika. From memories of Ninja Academy I know that although they've had lectures on killing and death, I doubt these folks have fathomed events like the Holocaust or the one-sided massacres of innocents in the Middle East, like Palestine or Syria, of the atrocities at Nanking. I shook my head to snap out of my thoughts. As mentioned, the more I delve into it, the harder it is resurface. Maybe something to do with taking the place of a character whose sole moral compass was not to do things his older brother did and rid the world of him for he was evil. Lucky? The Hokage raised an eyebrow. You find your and the lives of your team being thrown into danger lucky? No? Naruto ruffled his hair, looking sheepish while Kakashi actually sighed. You may go now. Come back tomorrow. The Hokage made a shooing motion and unfurled another scroll on his desk. By your leave, Hokage-sama. Kakashi turned around and began to walk, us following him. So, what do we do today, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto swung his arm, quite chipper about the C rank tomorrow. I was thinking about starting you guys on tree walking. I shut off listening when Naruto began to object, and only began to pay attention to how Kakashi walked up a tree. Focusing my Sharingan, I observed that former ANBU captain employed the same technique as me, chakra flaring out from certain points beneath the soles of his feet to attach himself to the bark. And now my cute little genin, your turn. Kakashi smiled from where he stood upside down, still reading his book. Biting down a smirk, I walked up the same path as him, hands in my pockets before standing upside down next to him. Yo. I held up a hand in his mimicry, and Kakashi simply nodded, reaching out to mess/pat my hair. I hemphed and turned away, but made no effort to sweat his hand as per prior occasions. It was about time for my icy exterior to thaw a bit. Good Sasuke. It seems you already know this exercise. The sound of Naruto's determined yell filled training ground 3 as he rushed up a tree, and then began to slip when he was perpendicular to the ground. Huh. Wait a minute. Slip? Ignoring Sakura's success, I focused on Naruto again as he ran up, Sharingan focusing on his feet. Chakra leaked out, barely penetrating the bark. He didn't use excessive chakra. He barely transferred enough to attach himself. I had not been expecting this. Remembering back the wave arc, I suddenly recalled that it had been Sasuke, me, who had splintered the surface of a tree while Naruto had slid right off. Jinchuriki status be damned, what was in front of me was clearly not a case of my teammate pouring more chakra than necessary in his techniques, but the opposite. Jumping off and landing nimbly, I made my way over the blonde, hands in pockets, wondering how I could have been so stupid to not have observed him before. What do you want, genius bastard? I didn't even do anything, besides telling you a girl has a crush on you. One of these days, my patience will fail. Channel more chakra to your feet, loser. Blue's eyes met black, obscured red behind them. Something in his head clicked. Ooh. Sorry. Dusting himself off, Naruto made a ram seal and stood still, transferring all the chakra he could to his feet before running up. He stuck for 2 steps, before coming back down. Looking at me he beamed, but still did not verbally thank me as he normally did to people. My work done, I turned back to Kakashi, who was watching us carefully. Leaving Sakura to walk up and down to work on her stamina, the elite Jounin stood behind me before I even noticed. You're nothing like your academy profile. Another fall. Yet another attempt by Naruto. I waited for the wind to caress my hair before I responded. He's not an idiot. Mostly. And what about Sakura? Shouldn't you be working on your stamina with her if you've got it? What I wanted was to meditate, because I had an idea for a new theory. But what Sasuke would want to do was more training. And at this point in time I needed to do what Sasuke wanted, because if one day he came back I didn't want him to end up in the loony bin. Now, don't think so hard. Have you tried water walking? Kakashi looked at me, eye smiles slowly turning into a glare. Right, Jounin have no time for Uchiha apathy. Yes. Huh. Know any elemental ninjutsu? Uchiha ones. Well, I'll test your chakra nature one of these days. Keep your teammates company while I'm gone. Bye. Stupid Jounin and their body flicker. Well, time to see if I can climb a tree on one leg. And these are the people guarding me? Samurai Jairi spoke neutrally, but a small fan hid her expression. Glowing skin, a gold pin in her hair dark as the night, and green robes a shade lighter than trees which hid our village. Eyelids and lips painted with a cherry pink color. And every stiff inch a haughty princess. My apologies, Samurai-sama, a servant looking just as beaten as his master was arrogant. But the legendary copy ninja was not available otherwise. And don't forget me, Naruto piped up. You. Samurai Jai arched an elegant brow. Future Hokage, Uzumaki Naruto. Believe it? Of course. Almost everyone could see that she did not, even as she hid her hands in her sleeves. Really? Thanks. You ain't half bad yourself. Look really snobby though. Naruto smiled. I had to bite my tongue to stifle the giggle that wanted to escape. Never had anyone be less than polite with you, Samurai-sama? Half an hour of dalliances later, I found myself sitting atop our client's carriage, while Kakashi brought up the rear and Naruto and Sakura flanked the horses. The mission had begun in a town 7 miles northeast of Konoha, a place smaller than the leaf village called Sakami, known by its neighbors for its fishing streams. Quaint wood and clay buildings aside, there was plenty of modern architecture as well. But I couldn't help but feel a single building in New York could house the entire residents of one of these settlements. Residents who weren't afraid of us quite. Shinobi did not count civilians as someone who understood them, and the exchange went both ways. We were simply different from each other. Unless someone really forced themselves to think hard, they accepted the ways of the world as they were without changing perspective. Humans leaping off trees, walking around with weapons, capable of making someone disappear without a trace, were common facts. Whether you obsessed over it, or calmly went on with your life while believing you had no reason to fear the shadows that lived among you, was your call. On the other hand, talking about, say, zebras, gachi looks like black and white striped creatures that were dime a dozen in zoos were some myth I had heard of or concocted from an overactive imagination. That one time I had tried to joke about how some things in the world were really black and white during philosophical genin-only conversations. So really, perspective. Like the chance of a lethal bandit encounter on this mission with armed children. Except we weren't civilians, and so not quite children, and every ninja began their career as a child or early teen. Now, matching the age at which we began our jobs to the drinking age for everyone, us included, that was abnormal. I'd bet my favorite shirt Kakashi thought it was normal for children under 10 to train, that the Hokage had not considered raising the graduation age until his graying years showed him what children were like off a battlefield, that ninja or not, a child was a child. That you'd think it was somehow wrong for someone born with chakra to wait more than a decade and a half to be considered an army asset, was a gift of intelligence belonging to very few. And of all the history I'd read, made me ponder this. A cycle of hatred was too simple a spiritual basis for the wars that embroiled this world. And as long as scribes wrote to please their lords and leaders, I had little chance of finding someone who penned by from the shoes of the other, of the enemy. And why think so deeply, and search so hungrily? Life is an experiment, but all great experiments had a purpose. Plants need water, animals need food, fire needs fuel, and human beings need purpose. Only then do we truly nurture, live and burn. Now, when do you think something exciting will happen? Naruto's voice crashed against my ears, popping my personal reverie. Will you keep it down? Green's eyes glared into blue, even as Sakura's fist shook. Poor girl must have been jittery enough with our first mission, to say nothing of the quiet day aside from Naruto's voice. Hoofs clopped along the dusty road cleared along the summer-beaten prairie as we traveled towards our destination, the only cover that might anything a few hills on our sides. The Sharingan picked up no signs on life beside the occasional small animal, or a grazing herd in the distance. I flipped out without a sound, hopping on my toes ahead of the party and stopping to feel the ground. This close up, I could feel the traces of a chakra, the foreign feeling that reacted to a sense that was neither temperature, nor scent, nor texture but simply there, at a non-definable primal base. Infinitesimal for my eyes did not pick it up, and had my paranoid sense born out of checking every corner and window for people that were not quite fond of me in the world I had left behind, it would have gone entirely unnoticed. What could be the meaning of this? A shadow that now fell over my shoulder, gray hair forming a spiky silhouette with no outline of a book. Sense something, Sasuke? Small traces of chakra. You're a sensor? Lazy eyes seemed to see behind my onyx disguise to the blood-red irises. No. Oh. How lucky then. The Jounin looked ahead, I scrunched against the sun. Luck doesn't exist. I got up, dusting myself off. Kakashi said nothing besides a pat on the head and returned to the carriage which had paused. Would that I could have made a shadow clone, I'd have asked for permission to scout further, but alas. We resumed traveling, my teammates more vigilant but Kakashi just as aloof without his book. In the afternoon a break was called for lunch, for which our client did not step outside her dainty vessel, while Naruto chatted up her workers a mile a minute, getting to know them all. It was the first time I felt bored in this world. Bored because I couldn't do anything. Couldn't wander off, couldn't talk to anyone about what I was really thinking, and to top it off, I had really become accustomed to leaping along trees to travel distances than walking on the ground so long. If anything, it felt like waiting for a class to end. The query was not solved even when Sakura took out an apple for me. It wasn't from the shop I usually visited and thus not as crispy, but it was still an apple. I still thanked her, poor soul could try. It was when we were a quarter of an hour from our destination did trouble stir. The only clue that something was wrong was when the sound of wood splintering reached my ears. In the blink of an eye, there were 3 ninja where before there were none, a destroyed carriage with a mutilated log in its remains, with no sign of our client. In another blink, my Sharingan refocused. I'd been near gunshots louder and more lethal to freeze now, damn it. Hey, she's vanished. A high male voice, one I did not recognize, yelled. As expected of the copy ninja, a female voice drawled, dust still billowing while the genin stared at the unwanted visitors in shock. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see a flare of Kakashi's chakra as it seemingly teleported through intervals. A shadow clone body flickering the client to safety. Smart. I'm afraid I didn't get your name. No offense. Another copy of my teacher waved at the tall brunette Kunoichi, garbed in dun robes like her companions, long sleeves concealing her hands entirely. A part of my brain was awed at how fearless they were, standing in a cloud of dust whilst clad in black trousers. Another realized they wore no insignia to verify their village. None taken. There's no need to introduce ourselves, the leader smirked at Kakashi. 'Cause dead people have no use for names, right? Naruto's voice cut across the ground unexpectedly. I nearly smacked my forehead. Leave it to him ruin the monologue of a kunoichi who had either no reason to run from Hatake Kakashi or was very cocky. Genin? The unnamed saboteur asked. Genin. Kakashi I smiled in response. Sheesh, you could teach him some manners. Ma, I do apologize. Why he had to say that with a kunai in his hand I do not know. I took it a small measure of comfort that he hadn't unveiled his Sharingan. Yet. Oh please. One of her companions, the stocky one, rounded on Naruto, who was immediately flanked by Sakura. The third, slender and agile ninja, turned towards me, collar covering up to his nose. Lines were drawn. And I knew that unless someone stopped them, they would carry out their mission no matter what. Just like us. Between investigating and rendering the reason for their assignment mute, which would be in vain in case the failed assassination's motives were personal, the simpler task was to kill them. Or at least their supposed leader, in hopes the other two would retreat. Fighting would be a lot easier if my heart wasn't somewhere around my ankles, at the moment. Discreetly I steadied my breathing. No panic, bad genin. You're cute. The enemy placing me in mortal peril commented, her voice quite bubbly. My train of thought slowed and began to take off like aeroplane. Pardon? You have pretty face. The kunoichi wagged a sleeve at me. Shrugged, it'd be a shame to kill you. In the distance rubble flew and the adult ninjas fought, hard to follow, while Naruto led an assault with his shadow clones on the only male member of this assassination party. And in this disarray I found another opportunity one had not known I was missing in this world, to be myself entirely. Casually spinning a kunai in a guarded, but non-threatening posture, I winked at her. I myself find myself at odds to spill the blood of a maiden with hair as cute as yours. I clamped down on ensuing shock within me when she actually blushed, reaching up to caress her rough pixie cut. Do you always flirt with your enemies, pretty boy? I've never flirted with anyone, period. There's more to life than love when you're chasing after dreams bigger than the Empire State Building. What have I gotten myself into? You're the first girl to particularly catch my eye in this world. Honesty is the best policy, is it not? The tomboy hid her mouth behind a sleeve, probably concealing Simban I ought to be concerned about, if not for the red brushing across her nose. Was Sasuke/I really that good looking? What's your name? Tombo-san asked over grunts of Naruto and Sakura's shrieks as she took cover. I tried to not feel guilty about having a much easier time than them. Shouldn't you be more concerned about your team? They treat me like shit anyways. That was the one who sheared my hair in the first place. Warily, I scanned for a genjutsu and came up negative. Her expressions certainly weren't faltering or body language being inconstant as when one was lying. You do realize you just mouthed insubordination? Well, it's not like I wanted to be a ninja. I can definitely see now why the highest probability of becoming missing nin belongs to Genin, if this person was one, judging by her talk. Or was she trying to lull me into a state of fake security, before she... A metallic hiss, strands snipping off my bangs as I tilted forward, my deduction proved true before I could finish it. Wordlessly we charged at each other. Throwing a feint towards her face, I smashed my left fist just below her guarding arms into her solar plexus. Without pause, I clasped my hands and elbowed her stomach. An uppercut with a palm, snaking a hand under and over an arm carrying a shaky fist, I clasped her shoulder and twisted her wrist. But before I could restrain or pin my opponent down, her free hand landed a blow somewhere that had me seeing stars. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Even as I felt all organs were being squished into I leaped out of her range. Damn, I wish I had some of Guy's training now. Yes, that training. There was no time to think, I moved before I registered the Samban coming at me. 2 hit the ground behind me, the 3rd easily slid through my white shorts to prick my thigh. Shit, faster than shuriken. A tiny part of me wondered why I hadn't acquired Samban. Many would say they are for weapons specialists whose bread and butter is their accuracy, but I could now attest to the fact that these things were damn noiseless. It seems my penetration was a bit rough. You're bleeding, cutie? She did not. Usually it's the guys who do that. I'm terribly sorry for just thrusting in during the foreplay. She just did. No. The same voice, born of too many stupid attempts to jump over gaps too wide, repeated a phrase that had saved my life countless times in New York. Not yet. You will not fall for a trap as obvious as this. Ma, I drawled like my teacher as my eyes bore into hers. You should be prepared to take responsibility then, shouldn't you? I winked. Whether it was my provocation, or part of her strategy all along, she will her chakra and let the ground swallow here. Hiding like a mole technique, was it? Obvious downfalls include the opponent knowing you're underground, ruining the element of surprise, vulnerable to techniques if the exit and entry is not fast enough, but her level was more than enough to deal with me. And the last, I was the target. She had to come at me. My opponent was much more surprised than I thought when she finally emerged, genjutsu making it appear as if she was jumping out from all 4 directions with 6 senbons glinting in both hands, lodging into my back. The back of the me who was a clone over a log, substituted many moments ago when I realized the endgame of her technique. Add to the fact that the Sharingan found her the instant she emerged, I ambushed her ambush, kneeing her squarely the small of her back. I may or may not have been feeling resentful about that crotch shot earlier. It seems you have fallen for me. Did I take your breath away? Kunai digging into her nape with both her wrists and thumbs restrained by ninja wire, I warned, best not move. Any accidental cut here, and full body paralysis is certain. A pained grunt. You sound like you're not going to kill me. Sarcasm, but I could imagine the resigned expression on her face, along with a little wistfulness in her voice I thought was hope. I wish I was that naive. I kinda wish you were a frail hope, a prayer behind the curtains of sarcasm. Oh well. My favorite fruit is mango. Tombo-san changed the topic flippantly, making me tense my grip on the kunai that already piercing her skin and drawing blood. Ouch, I'm not going anywhere. That hurts like a. Be done or get lost. She snarled. I swallowed my dry throat, before responding awkwardly. Apples. What? I like apples. Did you know, gods of death love apples? They do? Are you my Shinigami then, cutie? The image of a spiky white mane and otherworldly yellow eyes crossed my mind. No, I don't even use a tanto. There was a soft landing next to us, the conclusion to the battle of older ninjas that were probably our team leaders. Kakashi said nothing, looking from me, to her, to the kunai and then meeting my eyes with his. What now? I don't suppose if I let you go, you'll abandon your objective, Tombo-san? She snorted derisively, but the Sharingan picked up the muscles of her neck, nodding in fear, before she breathed harshly. The only choice is to complete the mission after you're gone and return with thee as a casualty, or be taken down by Hunter Nin a week later. Kakashi's eye was narrowing in a way that he was onto something right. Scrutinizing her statement, a factoid from one of Sasuke's academy lectures slipped into my thoughts. Only villages with kaigas had hunter ninjas, those who went after the rogues of their village if feasible. Another very unlikely option was to take her as a prisoner. The more I pondered, the heavier the kunai in my hand felt. My breathing quickened, the beating of my heart resonating between my ears. It wasn't really in our details to murder any bandits or assassins we were to come across, although expected but not explicitly told, and it's not like our client didn't know our job was done once she was in the village safely, and she also didn't not know the risks of living wherever she did. About whoever wanted her dead could hire shinobi just like she did. A gloved hand came to rest on my shoulder, callous fingertips gripping with gentleness. Ma, I thought our blonde friend was the emotional one. You know, the client has ninja guarding her house. But they can't leave the town, even for her. The weapon fell from my boneless hands with a small clang against a rock. I need to go check on my teammates. Try not to do anything one lets you go, Mango-chan. Kakashi squatted down and picked up my kunai, calling the tomboy by her favorite fruit. How long had he been there? Slowly, I let go of the girl pinned under me and jumped off. Strangely unable to make eye contact, I turned away. But when she began to speak, my feet rooted themselves into the ground. Sometimes, I think if the people who keep ranting about how the world is so cold just shut up, they'll realize that the world is so cold is because people like them keep thinking it is and justify what they do by blaming it. Unsure of what to say, I just turned to give her the tiniest of smiles, an all too often iteration. HN. Our first brush with death was still destined to be on our first C rank, when we reached the village of Samurai-sama to find 3 guards murdered. Had they not been targeted by a ninja that was soon dispatched by Kakashi's clone, we would never have seen dead humans. It was attending their funerals that were the last, heavy memory on that mission, never mind the brush with death or the fact Naruto and Sakura knocked an enemy ninja unconscious. For me, death was nothing new, having lived in the world where the law was a greater danger to you than the lawless. As one apt fictional pirate suggested, you can trust dishonest men to be dishonest, but you never know what the honest, self-righteous morons would do. It was the decision to take a life which was my cynosure on that first C rank. Even now, the thought of slashing a kunai across her throat nauseated me, which led me to break character for Sasuke and head for something sweet and soothing. The novelty had finally worn off, and at times I even worried about getting back to my own world. I cursed my unfinished assignments mostly, but there were people I thought I would like to meet again, tell that one cool biology teacher what happened to me, or even think of something to help the agitated aunt I lived with, who for all her faults and clear disdain still kept me alive and clean. But on to lighter matters, Kakashi had suggested I try some calming tea. To be fair, try was a generous word. As a senior ninja who had grown up without needing it, still a bit immature, he viewed it as a medicine for old men and troubled youngsters, and his attitude towards such remedies was childish. A chip off the old block, he was a believer in sucking it up, but knew his opinions were not constructive for a genin. Or so I assumed, thinking back to see if the eccentric jounin escaping hospitals was what happened here in reality, as I reached a famous dango shop. The dango shop, in fact. Post-mission leave was 2 days, so there was ample time to visit it. But the way we informed of it, by the chunin behind the desk who had taken our report, he still thought we'd be fine without it. Pushing aside the banner at the entrance, I stepped inside to a crowd of adults. At this time, most genin would be training or on a D rank, but the social atmosphere at the shop was the furthest thing on my mind while walking to this place. Of course Kakashi would suggest something no other teacher would advise their genin. Hell, I'd bet other Konoha teams would have their troubles dealt with personal guidance than this offhand approach. Or maybe the S-rank ninja was saving money by not accompanying me here. That also sounded more like him. Pretending not to feel multiple eyes on me, I sat into a lonely table, its bench attached to it, in the center of the food place. A waitress hurried to me, smiling. "What would you like?" she chirped, smoothing her black apron that identified every other worker in the shop. "A cup of calming tea. And some dangos. 1 plate." I held up a finger in case she misheard in the din of background conversation. She nodded, disappearing quickly. I could definitely see the bias when my order reached me before another table whose customers were present before I arrived. I wonder if I'd see Anko here though. Considering the chunin exams were upcoming in but a few days, it was no wonder I did not get to see her, but the tea was indeed soothing, with a touch of lemon, and the dangos were bland, a bit chewy but with great texture, covered in a sauce that seemed sweet and savory at the same time. I can see why Itachi Nizan loved these. Even as an S-rank criminal, he did make a stop at this shop. Or will. But I digress. It was a meal that would have cost a fortune in the world I left behind, and I had no doubt the rice dumplings would be smaller than these generous servings. Thanking the waitress, I asked her if there was any way I could have some for home. The question was unneeded, because I knew she would make a way if there wasn't one. So with another plate for later, I was on my own way home, until I ran across a familiar scene. The only familiar scene since Team 7 was formed, in fact. Kankuro in his purple smudged face was an intimidating sight, adding to that he was a giant teenager from Konohamaru's perspective. "Boss!" he wailed as Naruto and Sakura, followed by Moegi and Udan, came into view. "That's the Hokage's grandson. Unhanding him would be appreciated." My dry voice cut across the street, heads whipping towards me even as Boy was dropped to the ground. I wasn't trying to be stealthy, but if I had managed to go undetected, it was a good sign. "For the family of the leader of your village, he doesn't have much manners." Kankuro spoke to me, still eyeing the brat as he rushed back to my blonde teammate. How hypocritical. But before I could manage a riposte, something stirred my instincts. The Sharingan hidden behind my lenses picked up a third person, his chakra shining marine green, tinged by red. A sort of red which sometimes became evident when someone on my team made too many shadow clones. Gaara, no doubt. Hold on, marine green, you wonder? Each person has a different chakra color, rather than simply blue. My own was purple, which I had attributed to simply being a cross-product of my red-tinted vision and the fallacy that everyone had blue chakra. "Hey, you're the one with no manners!" Naruto shouted. "Better smart up, bud, or you're gonna be taught a lesson by none other than Uzumaki Naruto. Believe it?" "Right. What he said?" I said with uncharacteristic sarcasm and nodded, before turning to Temari. "If you're as smart as you're beautiful, I suggest you avoid getting into any trouble during your stay." I could feel Sakura spluttering without even turning my back. The blonde girl, still fair despite her home being a desert, smiled at me, placing a hand on her hip. "I apologize for my brother, we were in the wrong this time. What's your name?" "Temari, by the way." Said brother rolled his eyes at the actions of his sister, before glaring at me. "Uchiha Sasuke. Well then, you shouldn't keep your friend waiting." Looking in Gaara's general direction, I shrugged and went on my way, not pausing to see how they paled. "What just happened?" Naruto scratched his head, looking to a fuming Sakura for answers. He didn't get any. It was after training that evening, when our eccentric teacher was done checking our muscle development and body posture, did he explain to us about the upcoming chance for promotion, to no surprise from me. "And that's how it is," Kakashi said, handing us all a form for the Chunin exams. "Heh, this is gonna be awesome." Naruto eagerly began to read his paper. "Sakura-chan, what do you think? Are the Chunin exams why we have that by foreign ninjas in the village?" the pink-haired girl asked our teacher instead. Kakashi blinked, definitely catching the slip of tongue. "Ma, did you run into any?" "Don't worry, it's all under control." Frowning, I could see a different kind of determination ablaze in her green eyes. "I'll be there." Without much fanfare besides his jaunty wave, Kakashi disappeared in a body flicker, leaving us three to disperse. Today was not a day for hanging out at Ichiraku, as Sakura bowed out to seriously mull over her application and I wanted to go home and meditate. Meditate? The reason was an arcane one, but upon experimentation held results. According to my self-developed theory born of too many chakra techniques that required breathing, I came to a realization. Chakra is always in motion, involuntarily, like the beating of the heart, the breathing of the lungs, the blinking of the eyes. It explained why when chakra was exuded from the body, feet, hands, or mouth, more from all available tenketsu rushed towards the area from where it was being released. Put simply, it created a drop in the potential, a sort of sink, towards which chakra from higher potential rushed to. And according to some aspects of chakra theory, breath moved your chakra. Detailed observation of guy with the Sharingan, some people use his village-wide training route as a way to keep time, showed that his breathing was impeccable. There was a sharp exhale with his each blurry fist that the Sharingan barely saw, slow intake through the nose when he paused, and most importantly, the way his chakra seemed to simmer in that refractory period when he rested, matching the tune of his breathing, before bursting with his motion again. He was the only person I knew yet who managed to leave an afterimage with his blazing green chakra, streaks of light flashing in my vision with his swipe of his limbs. It made sense how Lee, with his deformed chakra coils, could still use chakra. He ingrained his breathing with muscle memory, and used it in a way that was the second best way to utilize it, for he did not mold it, and thus it experienced less loss in power because it did not travel from his belly to his fists and kicks. Second best, because Tsunade had an even better technique, tied up there with the gentle fist. And so, since a week ago, I had begun to regularly meditate to practice breathing. It began with simply breathing while sitting, and then slowly going through my taijutsu forms with a focus on my breath, even as heart rate quickened. It was the most slow rewarding training I had even begun before our C rank, after which it became more a matter of necessity than simply training to maintain my mind because of the decisions this career path might decide for me. But it was a life I had to live for someone else, in case he returned, and I hadn't much in the way of options. With the Chunin exams starting tomorrow, Kakashi informed us quite late, I needed all the peace of mind I could get. But it was the day when I walked up to the exam building, Naruto and Sakura besides me each step that I had the notion that perhaps Sasuke wasn't coming back. "Whoa, that guy looks just like the Arrow Jounin," Naruto said as Lee was sent to the ground by the disguised Chunin, Kotetsu and Izumi. "Does that pervert have kids?" Sakura blinked, cocking her head towards Naruto. The blonde grinned back. "It's a long and weird story, Sakura-chan." "HN. Well, if you say so." The girl acquiesced, not asking further, but the person in question was up and staring at me, too close for comfort. "Uchiha Sasuke, I challenge you!" Rock Lee yelled. As Naruto protested and Sakura berated the most youthful member of Team 9 for persistent unwanted advances, I pretended to sigh, hiding a smirk. "I might as well accept, Rock Lee." My voice cut across the bickering even as Niji and Tenten reached us. Lee had stopped dead in his tracks. You know of me?" "We know of your teacher too, that Arrow Jounin." Naruto effectively cut across any better statement I might have made. If only I could punch him right now. "I know Guy-sensei has a complex personality," Tenten said, looking thoroughly offended, "but what you say should have limits." Naruto gulped in the face of feminine anger, but refused to give up his claim. "But it's true." "Yash, I will combat you not just to test my prowess, but to defend Guy-sensei's honor as well," Lee exclaimed, eyes burning. "Follow me." Unable to protest against an even more determined Rock Lee, I had no choice but to follow him to a sparring area within the academy building. Soon we stood on opposite sides, making the seal of confrontation. "I have heard great things about you, the last genius of the Uchiha clan," the green-clad boy said, sliding his left arm behind his back and spacing his legs. "Rookie of the year, well-versed in all aspects of being a ninja, and not to mention you possess the most coolest and hip attitude among us genin. Even Guy-sensei admits it." Again with the last genius, but I suppose mentioning my wicked, super, special, to the end loving me and awesome older brother was in bad taste. Nonetheless I smirked, making the first blows not physical but mental. It takes a lot of hard work. That genius is decided at birth is perhaps the greatest lie we tell each other. Lee visibly faltered, open palm leveled against me closing into a fist. "What are you saying? Don't you know how hard it is for a normal person to catch up to the potential the likes of you possess?" "Don't ask me, ask yourself, who will the one holding back?" Not wasting further time, minding my breathing, I charged at him unlike I had ever rushed an enemy before, towards my most formidable opponent to date. Lee was quick to block my punch before slamming his fist between my ribs. Gasping, I countered with a left elbow that he caught, and then swung my arm outward to backhand across the face. Lee used the momentum to put distance between us, spinning as he performed a low kick to kick my ankles off. With my center of gravity lost, he pressed with a high kick to send me sprawling. I fell halfway and jumped back up on my toes, lithe as a cat. The leaf whirlwind, I gathered, was that last move, before Lee rushed me. My forearms burned as his fist kanonied my guard, making me opting for dodging, only attacking when I could afford to block effectively. Right, left, left kick. I bent at my knee and swooped at his ankles hard, my foot jarring even as kicked off this weight. The older genin slapped his hands to the floor and launched an uppercut with his heel, sandals skimming my chin as I jerked back. Clasping the offending leg with my hands, I thrust my foot onto his thigh, then his core muscles, using his abs as a step to leap back. To his credit, the taijutsu prodigy did not even let a single yelp escape at the blows to his femur and near his solar plexus. "You are indeed as skilled as they say," Lee commended, breathing harshly. "The only one who can keep with my assault is my teammate, Hyuga Niji." I made no mention of how his patterns were predictable after watching Guy. The lack of flexibility in his moves sets a clear sign of rigid repetitions. "I'm sure he works hard as well," I said, wiping my chin on the back of my hand. "It came away with no blood, but an abrasion was no doubt present. That may be, but he is also like you, born a genius. But that does not matter, because I'm about to end this right now. Lee's form lit up with his chakra, rushing from his head where the first gate of opening was located, and flooding his body. Here it comes, I could see, but not react in time to the opening of the primary lotus, Lee covering the distance between us in a single breath, and I lost all sense of direction, gravity as I was kicked upwards, but my instincts soon returned. I could feel the Sharingan spinning, recording everything that was happening. It made sense, and yet it did not when my opponent jumped vertically but managed to position himself horizontally below me, following my ascent. There is a genius in this fight, and it's not me. Augmenting my muscles with chakra, well used to the feeling of being in the air, I somersaulted and thrust myself down with both feet, bushy eyebrows rising in shock as the forbidden technique was cut halfway. We fell in a tumble of limbs, because I had kicked with all the force of my weight Lee's stomach, and that in turn knocked the breath out of him. And as mentioned before, breath moves chakra. Still, we stood up at the exact same time, him with his injuries and me fighting off a bout of sudden vertigo, when there was a noise, smoke, and on top of red tortoise the appearance of none other than Lee. What is the meaning of this? Mado Guy proclaimed for the world to hear, ending our fight and a few of my hearing cells. Guy-sensei! Lee yelled back, distraught. I'm sorry, Guy-sensei. I didn't mean to, but for once, I just wanted to show off that I too could defeat a genius. And to do that, you went against the commands of your teacher? Have I ever taught you anything wrong? No, Guy-sensei. I am ready to take any punishment, a youthful sucker punch, and the student fell to the floor in front of his teacher. Lee, I know how you feel. Forgive me, but I will do what's best for you even if it means demanding more patience from you than reasonable. Guy-sensei. Lee. My mouth fell in harmony with the rest of Team 7 when a sunset appeared out of nowhere. I deactivated, and then reactivated my Sharingan. It was still there. Some mysteries of the universe, the eternal questions of the past, present and future, and the phenomenon of youth-inducing sunset in the afternoon, they are beyond the reach of men and women as simple as us. Even as the illusion was shattered by a cry of "It's that arrow Jounin," I could not help but think about it. Heh, it looks like all the academy class is gathered here. Kiba smirked when we entered the room. Naruto caught sight of Hinata, and stepped behind me, almost like he was hiding. Acknowledging his behavior to be somewhat my fault, I let him. Oh, Sasuke-kun! Ino chirped, but Naruto had my back both figuratively and literally as shooed her off with a hand, preventing a back hug. Was it me, or were Sakura's glares more baleful towards her than I remembered? She fiddled with a pink lock, and thus the realization hit me. Temari was blonde. So was Ino. In my tired state, I had let some of my honest thoughts seep through, which Sakura had taken more seriously than imagined. Teams 7, 8, 10 were gathered before Kabuto came to address Ruckus. There was gentleness in his voice, an aura so sincere I might have mistaken him for a friend where I considered others allies had I not known. Quiet down, you guys, you're attracting unwanted attention and danger, said the most deadly person in the room to us, a wry smile on his face as he introduced himself and explained his reasons for butting in. Oh, it seems these have your attention, Naruto-kun. Kabuto flaunted his ninja info cards. Yeah. Do you think we'll have time for card games in an exam? These aren't playing cards, Kabuto said, almost apologetically. These are ninja info cards, here, watch. With a flick of his hand, the blank surface of a card disappeared to show its backside, which again flipped to show Naruto's profile. Eagerly, the Jinchuriki snatched it out of purple-gloved hands, eager to see what secrets were there. Wow, it's got all the number of missions we did, and that weird star thingy the Academy reports had. Where did you get my picture, though? At last he scrunched his face in suspicion. All of this available knowledge to a fellow shinobi. Until you're Chunin, no one seriously guards this stuff behind the good locks and seals. But don't tell? Kabuto pleaded Naruto. Leaning conspiratorially, he made an offer in a stage whisper. I did kind of break some rules, and if you promise to not tell anyone, I'll show you the card of a genin you want to see. Why not your own card and another one? You already know mine. Naruto bartered with much more acumen than what most people expected of him. Besides, if you broke any rules, I'm not gonna be a part of it. Believe it. Kabuto blinked before smirking. Alright, Naruto-kun. Can you show me a card? Sakura asked suddenly. Temari, she's from Suna. You have got to be kidding me. Am I surrounded by what, 12-year-olds? Kabuto smiled. Sure, I do remember having something about those Suna ninjas. A dexterous shuffle of cards, and soon he was handing a card to Sakura, hidden from all others. Before I could voice anything to my female teammate, Ibiki showed up and the show was on. There was a chart according to which we sat, after randomly drawing numbers from a box, hence the seating arrangement was slightly different. I enjoyed the written exam, a reminder, perhaps a relic of the world left behind. But it was a formality. Even without it, we would advance. Thus Team 7 passed. But where others had their fires rekindled by Naruto's outburst against the mental pressure and anxiety, I had only despair within me. Masking it behind a stoic Uchiha mask, I acknowledged the regret of not raising my hand before the 10th question. Sasuke, you eat something bad? Naruto asked as we exited the classroom after Anko's entrance, following the boisterous woman. HN. As far as I was concerned, there wasn't any crack in my performance yet, but now was a limited time window to see if I could tip anyone off about the hostile elements lurking among us. The first order of the matter was Gaara, the unstable Jinchuriki. With the Leaf having a clan like Hyuga, there was no doubt they noticed something about him the moment he came within sight of the village. The Byakugan was extraordinarily perceptive, and the simple matter of truth was that the Hyuga bloodline limit was the superior observation tool even to the Manjikyu. The Hokage had to know, but considering he let Naruto participate, and only had rumors to go on about Gaara, nefarious ones as they were no doubt, he was sentimental enough to dismiss them exaggerations. Exhibit A, Orochimaru. Additionally, there wasn't any specific law barring a Jinchuriki from taking part in a Chunin exam. And I doubt any Konoha ninja of import would take to it kindly if I, the last recognized of the Uchiha, implied that the Kazekage's son had a few screws loose and somebody heard. Sarutobi Hiruzen-sama would hardly entertain me any more than the president would have if I wanted to meet him directly. Contrary to common belief, the Hokage visited a lot of orphans over the year. Naruto was just a case special enough to make his prankster self end up in his office outside of visits, which is how he knew him, according to the blonde himself. The Sandaime visiting just him would attract attention, if anything. I still have no answer why he has so much damn paperwork. An implication was enough of an insult, never mind the attitude Suna itself had to the poor boy. Political allies, they'd take whatever reparations or fouls they could benefit from. And the next matter was Kabuto. The way things would play out, it would only be a matter of my word against his, who had years on me as a shinobi of the Leaf. More years as member of Root as well. It took being caught in the act by an ANBU squad which ousted him, and even then he escaped. Not only did I need to convince people that he was a spy, but that he needed people of the caliber of Kakashi to apprehend him. I could see that turning out fantastic. And after having Kabuto arrested, we would have Naruto become Hokage and Danzo apologize for stealing the eyes of my family in the form of a freestyle rap with Enka music, Shikamaru would become Gai's disciple, and Sakura and Ino would give up over me and marry each other, and Orochimaru would admit all he wanted was to be loved. I'm completely okay, I said. Perhaps an infinitesimal amount of stress from the exams was affecting me. You're going to do great, Sasuke-kun, Sakura encouraged from my side. Resisting the urge to sigh, I jumped ahead a few branches. Well, if you say so. We got some free minutes. Naruto continued as he caught up. Wonder where she's taking us, though. The forest of death. Probably. I added. God, did I need to meditate? Huh? The forest of death? Naruto burst out, nearly tripping on a branch. I would have actually punched him then, distance from the ground be damned, had Anko not whipped her head back to look at us. I believe the proper name was Training Ground 44. Sakura muttered, shivering. But nobody calls it that anymore. Why do you think we're going there, Sasuke-kun? I said probably. On our forms it said they are not responsible for our deaths or injuries. There's only one training ground that causes death and where we'd allow genin from other villages to stay for the survival exercise, as is the norm with the second stage of the Chunin exams. I batted away a small branch before continuing. That woman said she'll cut down our numbers. The best place to do that is the forest of death. It has been used before. I didn't elaborate with an example, because I had read it from the biography of the second Hokage, founder of Root. The Konoha library had its civilian section open day and night, and as I had some nights where I couldn't sleep, I easily snuck into there. But I shall kid you not, for my line of deduction is indeed bullshit. Thinking of Orochimaru, I frowned openly. Kakashi had trained us harshly in taijutsu, but he hadn't taught us any other thing besides which we learned ourselves. I still didn't know the body flicker. Wow, sometimes I forget you can talk. Naruto grinned at me. As usual, I could tell he was impressed, but he didn't say anything about it. Great thinking, Sasuke-kun. Sakura added her smart quip and I sighed internally. Absently I patted my pouch, only to find I had no more apples. In hindsight, I knew I'd be here for a week. I should have stocked up, I thought a tad childishly when we finally arrived before the fenced entrance of the forest. Alright, you little bugs, this here is the forest of death. Enko smirked into the faces of the tense hopefuls gathered in the eerily silent clearing, the temperature a few degrees colder at the shadows of looming trees. And that over there is the booth for the consent form, so we don't have to trouble ourselves looking for your bodies in case you can't get out. Now listen, you primitive excuse for ninjas, I won't repeat myself. You'll all be provided with a scroll. There are 2 types. A blue one and a white one, the Earth and Heaven scrolls. You need to bring both to pass to the tower located in the middle of the forest. It's equidistant from all entrances. If it's not, I wouldn't be there to hear your ing anyway. Here she grinned, a predatory expression that twisted my insides. Anything goes in the forest to get 2 scrolls. Now step to it. With a gesture towards the booth, she glared at a random team who hurriedly shuffled forward to sign their forms and get a scroll. Ooh, that guy looks like a mummy. You know, those bandaged men from mangas. Naruto pointed out the team from Sound, who were none too subtly glaring at us. Ah, me and my handsome face. There was a whistling sound to my right, completely unexpected. Nicking my collar as I tidled to the right, a kunai went by. Ah, you're a fast one. Enko's voice came from behind me. I jumped, and hated myself for it. And pretty smart too, Uchiha, from what I hear. I tried to smile, but I caught sight of someone with a grass headband. Seeing my expression of fear, the exam proctor smirked, misunderstanding entirely. Now that's what I like to see. Try not to get killed out there. Yeah, you too. I muttered absently, not taking my eyes off whoever Orochimaru was disguised as. Catching my gaze, Enko glanced to her back, held out her hand, forcing the not-grass genin to return her weapon like a sane person. Why thank you? Enko smiled. If only I could follow her example and smile in the face of dangerous humans. A fall from the Hokage monument? A minor problem compared to knowing who was beneath the mask of that genin. You're most welcome, and he proceeded to unnecessarily stick his tongue out. Sneaking away, I rejoined Sakura and Naruto, who were watching the scene play out, among many others with tense curiosity. Shaking my head, I couldn't help but glare at Naruto. HN. Team, how is it my fault? Obviously, she heard you and deduced that I was the one who correctly guessed the exam location. But of course, what I said was HN. Whatever. It's in the past. Forget it. It just happened, you idiot. Knock it off, guys, we're in an exam. Sakura hissed, stepping between us and jabbing us both with her elbows. It's our turn to sign form. With a final disdainful sniff, I turned to walk towards the booth, walking faster to outpace Naruto and receive our forms. As usual, the future Hokage didn't read much before signing it and handing it in. He soon came back with a blue scroll in hand. The Earth, as opposed to Heaven. This meant we had to go for a Heaven scroll. As we readied ourselves to enter the forest, exchanging looks and reassuring ourselves, I thought back to the one thing I did not regret. Even if we had not gone up against the demon of the mist, my team could do it. We were more skilled, if not experienced, because I had at least managed to do something. So, what's the plan? Naruto asked, crouched in the branches above, 10 minutes into the forest of death. This place gives me the creeps. And it's lunchtime. Food and water are our greatest priority, Sakura whispered back. Perhaps it was the exam, perhaps it the forest itself. It made you want to be deathly quiet. I looked at my teammates, building the confidence in my heart. We would get through this. I packed 3 days' rations. Between us, they can run for today and tomorrow morning. There are plenty of rivers and streams in here. You guys have purification tablets? I do, Sasuke-kun. Me too. Naruto nodded. And a cup of ramen. HN. I say nothing about your apples. Oh, I have an apple as well. Sakura blushed when I gave her an approving look. How far do you think the tower is? If you face no obstacles, it is possible to reach it in an hour and a half. I spoke, recalling the time for Gaara's team. I haven't seen a map, but read it from the memoirs of a retired Chunin. Said Chunin who used to be on Tsukumo Hataki's team, but that was a point not worth mentioning. My teammates gaped at me, Naruto sputtering, really, that's so easy. That woman, Enko-san, said it was equidistant from all gates. Sakura pointed out slowly. I blinked. What about it? Naruto cocked his head. Doesn't that mean we all have to cover like the same distance? Distance, yes, Sakura told him, going for the same conclusion I had reached. But if you look underneath the underneath, distance includes all elevations and descents. Some teams do have unfair advantages, if they can cut through the forest by going straight ahead, with all its dangers. The tower is straight to our east. Which means they won't give those paths to Konoha Genin, cause that'd be really unfair. Naruto suggested, grinning. Heh, no sweat. No ninja jumps through the leaves like us, believe it? I nodded. Switching to hand signals to see if he recalled them, I was relieved to see him respond in kind. Let's make plans just in case, I said, and after hushed discussion, after I was finally satisfied, I signed the first objective. Find supplies. Move out. Copy? Copy. The two signed back and we carried onward. The second phase was on. By sundown, we had not run into any other teams, had found a stream to replenish our water canteens and some fish. Sakura's twisted ankle, which had happened when a swarm of carnivorous dragonflies the size of dogs had chased us, was back to normal. If I had ever any doubts that we would fall to gigantic insects or mammals, they were put to rest. In the forest of death, we were preyed upon by its small fries. Even the fish we caught, big as our forearms, had tried to lunge for my neck, before smashed it into a tree, causing a large set of leaves to fall down, which hit the ground and immediately closed around the edges of Naruto's trousers, tearing his orange garment. Tired and frustrated, we were getting into each other's face. And hadn't that nearly caused a scene until Sakura, probably having a headache, smashed our foreheads together, our headbands clinking together. At least it didn't end in a kiss. On the other hand, I decided Sakura was quite fine when there were no other females around. And after being informed about Hinata, Naruto too had a better idea of what being asked out would feel like, so his attempts had also stopped. As they should have. No dating until you've changed the world, or at least gotten married, I say. Running a cursory glance with my Sharingan around the trees, the river and the small patches of earth visible among the green forest floor, I noticed it. Glowing amidst the red-tinted darkness of my vision were 3 different chakra signatures. One in the water at 6 o'clock. One in the trees, using chakra to stick themselves at 2 o'clock, behind Naruto. And the last on the forest floor, hiding behind a tree at 10 o'clock. A 3-point ambush from below, above and the back of 2 enemies. Whoever this team was, it had solid basics. Signing discreetly to Naruto about plan number 3, I sat down and tapped the enemy locations, doing my best to look vigilant. "Na, Sakura-chan, want help with that?" Naruto got up and walked over to our female teammate, who was busy trying to cook my catch. Leaving to him to inform her, I focused on keeping my breathing steady. The blonde was a great actor. I didn't notice any hiccups in his behavior which might have given the game away. It was when the meal was ready, our hunger already magnified by the sight of food waiting to be eaten, did we get attacked. Weapons rained from above, damn senbons of all things, while a splash sounded from behind us, followed by springing footsteps. In a flash, Naruto had shadow clones which ran off towards the stream and the trees. Using my Sharingan, I flicked off 2 kunai, passing uninterrupted between the senbon towards the enemy in the trees before jumping away, leaving metal needled clattered on the grass in my wake. There was a bang, a flash of light to my right. Glancing to where that particular kunai had come from, I found Sakura giving me thumbs up. Biting down to urge to chastise her, but then again, she wasn't the one who waiting in line with weapons to fire off shuriken towards the ambushers. There was a flash of movement in the smoke and a teen rushed towards me, curving to the right to build momentum. A symbol of the leaf glinted off his forehead in the oncoming dusk, his brown hair rolled into a godforsaken man bun. Adrenaline coursing, I controlled my breathing and took off to meet his charge. Sprinting forward, I took off head over heels with a burst of chakra, adjusting its flow when I slipped past into the guard of the surprised boy and kicked his sternum at a lower angle than Rock Lee. The result was that instead of flying up into the harmless canopy, my opponent crashed into a tree with a sound that caused me to wince, before slumping down, unable to move straight after getting up. Hurriedly, I grasped shuriken between my fingers and launched them, pinning him to the tree with dull thuds. "Janai! TCH, Uchiha bastard!" The female on the team glanced from where Sakura held her at bay with explosive tags hurled more senbons towards me. What is it with these pale green sashes this team wears? I couldn't help but question as I stepped to the side, sprinting towards the ponytailed kunoichi. I didn't pause to check my back, because multiple Naruto clones ran opposite to me to secure the guy nearly incapacitated by the primary lotus moves I had copied. Taking out a kunai, the kunoichi steadied herself to meet me head-on, only to dodge as Sakura threw a loaded kunai her way. The kunoichi evaded the explosion, using the stirred dust to throw Samban, which found purchase in my shirt, digging into my chest shallowly. "Alright, hold it!" Naruto's shadow clone shouted while dragging the guy called Janai to the middle, all tied up. "Stop fighting! We're all Konoha here!" "Naive brat, so what?" The other male, with a wispy beard on his chin, replied to the original Naruto. "This is an exam. It doesn't matter who take the scroll from. We've got an Earth scroll, so if you also have an Earth one, beat it," Naruto countered, looking a bit unsure. "This is an exam," I said, all fighting at a standstill. "We don't have to kill you, but we can do enough to make sure Janai doesn't live the rest of his days as a shinobi." I could feel the intake of the breath from my ridiculous bluff. Idly, I twirled the kunai in my hand. "That's a good one, kid. You guys are hungry, tired, and the only kills you've made are the animal back in the academy. You don't have the guts," the male with the French beard stated, taking a step forward. Naruto inadvertently stepped back. "See?" he grinned, pointing his kunai at my teammate. "Save yourself the trouble and just give us your scroll. This fight was over the moment you couldn't bring yourself to kill us." "But your Konoha-nin were on the same side," Sakura muttered, shaken and pale. Taking a deep breath, I gritted my teeth. This team didn't even make it to the preliminaries in the canon. With that thought, I thrust myself towards the idiot, so sure he could bring himself to kill me or my teammates. Startled, he made to defend himself, but I was on him, reading the twitch of muscles, the shifting of his weight, launching a full assault mindless of the few hits I sustained myself. The Sharingan was fearsome, I thought to myself as I finally kicked him away. There was a cut on the outside of my hand, a sharp pain in my ribs, and my left shin throbbed a bit. Kunai clenched in my hand, ready to be thrown, I began to speak. "I'm not going to pretend I can kill you, unlike someone here," I said, running an eye over to Naruto and Sakura, who had gotten entangled in a fight with the female of the opposing team when I threw myself onto her leader. "But I have no qualms about beating you within an inch of your life. Leave." I could see it in his expression, his hurt pride, as he gathered himself up and walked towards his teammates, neither of them as beat as him. "Untie him when you get away from here," Naruto warned, his rare, sharp side showing. The wispy-bearded genin scoffed, but obeyed. Only when I was sure that they had left, did I become aware of the throbbing in my hand. "Sasuke-kun?" Sakura asked, as Naruto made shadow clones to salvage our campsite. "Are you alright?" I turned my unsteady vision towards her, blinking in and out of focus. In the academy, over the course of 4 years, all genin followed a course of building immunity to certain commonplace poisons. Wincing, I tried not to stagger. The only real problem was my intestines twisting out of hunger. "I think I'll be fine." "At least let's clean your wound," Sakura insisted, taking out a small med pack. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a Naruto in contemplation, looking at his own wounds. By some coincidence, he returned the stare and I raised an eyebrow. He crossed his arm and spit to the side. Somehow, without words, we managed to communicate. "Don't do something stupid, moron." "Do I look like an idiot bastard?" After having my hand washed and bandaged, we attacked our cold food, not caring how bland it was. Sakura managed to produce an apple, which I halved and gave it to her. My own half I further halved with Naruto, leaving us boys a quarter each. "But you guys did the most work," she protested. "Let's not argue over this," I said, taking off my forehead protector to rub my head. My hand did not throb anymore, but I felt a slight fever in its place. Hoping it was a sign my immune system was fighting back, I tied it back again. That night we took watches as we had practiced on a survival exercise with Kakashi several times. With well-practiced techniques for sleeping, I managed to kip for a few short hours, removing my contact lenses and placing them in the small case I had brought. The first day had gone by as such, with no progress. But the exam went on. Hiding my movements amongst the rustling leaves as I rubbed my sore limbs, I watched Naruto arrange a breakfast of berries and unseasoned fish while Sakura snored, kunai dangling from her hand. Feeling slightly better, I uncoiled the bandage around my hand to inspect it. My mouth had a funny taste, and I could detect the undercurrents of fever within my normally active body. Once he was done, Naruto crept on all fours towards Sakura to shake her slightly, as I rinsed my hands economically with put on my contact lenses again, activating the Sharingan. Experience kept her from falling out the tree as she woke, and I handed her my canteen of water to hydrate. Not taking much notice of ourselves, we kept our eyes on our surroundings as we ate the breakfast, trying to chew slowly. It wasn't until Naruto brought out the bark of a plant used commonly to treat lethargy and headaches did Sakura raise a brow and initiated the first conversation of the day. I wasn't aware these matured at this time of the year, she commented. Unaware of that knowledge in Sasuke's memory, I chalked it up to her superior memorization. It looked quite unfamiliar to me, the bark nearly as brown as chocolate. Hee, I got lucky. Naruto ruffled his hair. Gratefully taking the small piece of wood, I placed it in my mouth and gave it a squeeze with my teeth. An unwise decision it was, as its stinging juices set my gums on fire, but I did not question it as soon it began to ebb away, alleviating the ache behind my eyes. A world with chakra had a plethora of plants I was sure to not find in any known encyclopedia back home. Aware that any sign of pain was concealed by the stoic mask I wore, I sat down, somehow the default leader of the team, to start going over the planning session we had had last night one last time. A standard Uzumaki ambush, with extra knowledge from Sakura and Uchiha precision with weaponry. But before we could even think of moving out into the dawn, there was a retina-burning flash of light. Reacting blindly, I leapt upwards, my body doing the opposite of what my brain was suggesting as my hands filled with shurikens instinctively. The charge had set off noise in the forest of animals and insects, masking whichever sods had attacked us. Blinking away violet and white spots dancing along my vision, I had no time to wait as a windmill shuriken cleaved through the branches. I tilted in alarm, smacking my forehead protector against the trunk. Sasuke! Naruto, or his clone, my instincts said, landed next to me, already recovered. Amigakure, one tall, two pipsqueaks, all of them can throw stuff. Especially needles. Knowing vaguely what to look for, I gritted my teeth and opened my eyes completely, pushing the pain out of my mind. What about Sakura? Boss has got her. The advantage of being able to see in poor lighting returning, I caught a small shape sneaking to our right, another huge shuriken in hand. As if sensing my gaze, they flung it before I could voice any warning. Jumping down with a chakra-powered leap in as the clone was dispelled, I launched a triplet of shuriken towards the last position of my attacker. Landing silently, I wondered if the lack of an explosive tag being used was a good sign or bad in regards to one pink-haired teammate. Much to my chagrin, my headache had returned, though I did not feel like throwing up. Yet, however, straining my hearing, I followed the sounds of metal, subdued clunk, clonk and clanging and rushed towards the battle, to avenge today which had been ambushed without ever being an ambush. How I wish I had not been a hasty fool. Grains of sand steeped into the grass, crunching underfoot were the first clue. The sour taste of blood permeating the foreign, unadulterated air of the forest of death was a close second. But I did not pay any heed to those signs. I did not even spare to the one who caused this, looking instead to forlorn faces of my team, terror radiating from their shattered expressions and misty, fractured eyes. Shigure! Someone yelled from behind, a sign of clear danger, but he forgot me completely as I turned around, racing instead to the crumpled corpses to my left. His team. They are dead. Gaara iterated, arms crossed and sand beginning to shuffle. The last of our initial assailants, bearing the insignia of hidden rain, seemed not to care, down on all fours, muttering to his teammates, shaking them, for naught. Specks of yellow began to coalesce around him, and my brain resumed its functioning, making me aware that my breathing had stopped and my hands were painfully clenched. I tried to calm my throbbing heart, but was unable to use any kind of meditation. Forcing myself to breath, I tried to find my voice, to signal my friends, but their eyes were transfixed on the spectacle occurring. It was morbid. There was to be no curiosity about what was to happen. Yet they couldn't look away, and nor did I look myself, unable to shift our vision. No! Please! I surrender. He was going to kill him, someone was going to be killed, I could not possibly bear to watch. A red sky, puddles of white blood clouds on earth, splattering the streets, the walls, the gutters, the windows. Red tainted sand. Belatedly, I realized someone was screaming. Naruto charged towards Gaara, who moved not a single inch. Jolted by the sight, I sprang into action, sprinting over the grass and latched onto his jacket, throwing him back. Why? Why did you kill him? The blonde screamed, vitriolic blue meeting unfazed turquoise. Gaara's siblings were perpetually tensed, but made no moves. Why? I exist to kill others. I failed to hide my shiver at his dull, apathetic voice. Are you fucking kidding me? Naruto's wounded tone rose even further, and I struggled to hold his jacket, nails burning as he dragged himself forward. That is shittiest thing I've heard in my entire life. Red chakra began to engulf his network, sharpening his canines and nails. Frightening and fascinating, the tailed beast within began to stir at last. Wincing, I released my grip as tendrils of red chakra burned my skin. It wasn't something that could be afforded. The Kazekage's youngest son had his interest piqued, and a deranged grin spread across his face. "You're a monster too?" Naruto roared. "Oh shit." I snapped to Sakura, knowing he was beyond reason. "Take the high ground, provide long-range support." She looked paler, her lips trembling and her dilated pupils making her seem haunted. I wondered if my own visage was faring any better. "Sakura, now!" Flinching, the kunoichi nodded imperceptibly and jumped up. My mind began to whir as the battle that should have been avoided became inevitable. We had no scroll, and nothing short of killing this team would ensure that we survived within the forest. Naruto charged head, clawed fist kanoning the wall of sand that rose such that it left cracks, to the Gaara's gleeful surprise. "I'll relish killing you. Show me your power." Naruto snarled, launching himself forward and wildly landed hits that left his knuckles bleeding. Even as the sandy defense reformed, he moved forward inch by inch, hands steaming as they healed and rehealed. Slinking past the single-minded teammate and the avid sand Jinchuriki, I readied my shuriken. The easy way was to separate Gaara from his sand enough to neutralize him, but I was not as fast or strong as a jounin to kick him away, never mind risk of trapping a limb and in that weapon. Watching as Naruto made shadow clones and approached Gaara from all directions, on 4 limbs instead of 2, the sand raised from behind the red-haired genin, covering him a circular wall. Leaping off a tree, I tossed 3 shurikens to his left, the sand rising to defend immediately. Landing on a branch, I waited for a single breath. Sakura did not disappoint and a volley of fairly aimed weapons arrived to Gaara's right, the sand rising further on both sides to shield him. Jumping off once more, I threw more shurikens at the top of his head. In position, the sand moved to cover its wielder in a dome. "Naruto!" I yelled, flipping through a reduced number of seals. I fired off the grand fireball jutsu midair, using to partly cushion my descent against gravity. Sand has a very low specific heat capacity. In layman terms, it conducts and dissipates heat superbly. Flipping backwards, I cut off the jutsu but held my chakra, blowing it up once more as I ran a circle around the dome of sand, burning more chakra than wise. The next moment, Gaara screamed from within and appendages made of sand lashed out towards, one straight into my chest and sent me flying. It swung around again, and I forced my protesting body to move, spitting out red-tainted saliva and jumping out of the way a binary a centimeter. In the center stood a livid Jinchuriki, sand crumbling off his angry red skin. Naruto, looking less feral, made shadow clones once more and charged, absolutely heedless of the pain as the scathing sand moved with plasticity unlike before. I slipped in among the crowd of orange unhindered, our teamwork flaring even in his rage, and took aim. With a burst of chakra I broke inside Gaara's guard, slicing through the sash that held his gourd. Seeing it slide down, I initiated the primary lotus. Hot sand moved immediately, wrapping around my ankle before whipping me away from its wielder into a tree, dispelling a few stray clones that came into the contact with my sailing body. Wincing, I sprang back up, only to be viciously slapped by more sand's tentacles that sent me rolling into another tree. Maybe no, ouch, definitely broke a rib or 2 there. I winced as I gingerly withdrew my hand from my right side. Spitting out blood, I did the smarter thing and jumped up a tree and into the foliage this time. My plan had failed spectacularly, and now we had a pissed-off Jinchuriki with the only way to win being finding a scroll and getting the hell out of Dodge. Considering all possibilities as I checked the injuries on my temple and left limbs from the sand, I could open the one scroll we did have and escape with the lives of our teammates. The trees behind me rustled and I cursed my lapse in attention. The mistake proved not to be fatal as Sakura emerged. "Are you okay, Sasuke-kun?" I titled my head, letting a drop of blood slide off it. "Why, of course I am, absolutely fine and dandy." Her jaw dropped a bit at my attitude which, for once, was my attitude, not a computation of Sasuke's. "Okay, stupid question." Sakura frowned worriedly. "But I think we can get a scroll." Following her pointed finger, I found the stains of blood that used to be living human beings, pulverized within their clothes. That still held all their equipment and pouches. With a frown of my own, I met Sakura's eyes, both of us knowing it was all up to Lady Luck at best. Naruto was still engaging Gaara, who seemed to enjoy destroying his clones in gruesome ways, squeezing them in sand, impaling him in vital organs, shoving it inside his red, slit irises and down his mouth. I shuddered. He would have one hell of a set of memories once he got himself back. "I'll go," transformed as Naruto, "while you keep an eye in case I get into trouble, okay?" I opened my mouth to respond, holding up a finger, before halting. Gone was the girl who might have enjoyed the idea of being a damsel in distress while I watched her back, in her place as someone more frightened than she had ever been in her life, and more brave than I tended to be stupid. Nodding, I slid a set of kunai into my hands. Sakura took a deep breath, before forming a ram seal and transforming into a copy of Naruto, eyes red, but not so animalistic. She leapt silently, easily mixing into the crowd of Naruto clones and nearly ran into one at her hurried pace, who looked at her, blinked, before jumping into the front. Probably where the original boss was, attacking head-on per habit, while I kept rotating my vision between Sakura, Gaara, and his unmoving siblings. Cursing as the siblings seemed to notice a stray Naruto as he separated from the horde of orange towards where the latest victims of Sand Jinchuriki lay, Temari and Kankuro made to move. Until Gaara noticed their movement, and a wave of sand blocked their path. Mine! He is all mine! He shouted, literally possessed. No one else will touch him. Sakura paid no attention to the outburst except the initial shock, before capitulating on the opportunity, and simply grabbing battered pouches as a whole, jumped back into the trees, so fast that I thought it might have been a body flicker. And then I saw a small trail of water marking her trail and felt my cheeks burn, not from exhaustion but something else entirely. God, had she been that terrified? Before the redhead in the clearing could make head or tails of what happened, Naruto clones brandished explosive tags and the battle reached the peak of its commotion. To my surprise, a minute later, both Naruto and Sakura reached me, the pink-haired girl grinning brightly while holding a bent, but not quite destroyed, earth scroll. Naruto nursed his hands a bit tenderly, his eyes blue and his expression back to normal. His face was shadowed, looking like he wished he could teleport out of here and be somewhere alone. So, the gamble played off. Naruto, the blonde, flinched, refusing to meet my eyes. Good work. We need to escape. He looked at me then, chewing his lip. I'm sorry. I raised a single brow. What for? Just. I snorted. Save it for later. Right now, we need a distraction, and you need to be it. Huh? We need to be escaping, straight to the tower. Looking at Sakura, and the scroll in her hand, Naruto blinked rapidly. When did you get that? Sakura glared back, miffed. I showed it to you just seconds ago, idiot. Children, please do not argue over whose Ninja Ranger is better. I muttered. Noticing they had heard, I allowed myself a small smirk. Come on, Naruto, we need your clones. I don't think can make them anymore. Noticing the way he seemed exhausted, and the fact that his knuckles were not healing themselves, I internally cursed. The damn fox was deliberately holding back his chakra, and Naruto had seemed to run out of his own. Naruto twitched, and I looked back to see that all of his clones had been dispelled, leaving behind Gaara with a very blank look on his face. Taking a deep breath, I focused on the objectives. Perhaps it was the surrealism surrounding the situation, but even with the threat to life and my wild heart, I could keep my mind straight. Or maybe I was used to adrenaline rushes prior to the fall, what I had taken to calling the moment in time when I arrived into this dimension. Obtain scroll, completed. Escape, incomplete. Proceed to tower, incomplete. A scared teammate, an exhausted and injured one, and my own, admittedly pathetic, self were at hand. I could force them to go ahead while I covered for them, but I was barely a match for Kankuro at the moment, let alone Gaara. Oh, there were techniques I had worked hard and fast to start learning, my training being more than the mere assimilation of years of this body's muscle memory. None that I could use after burning all the chakra I could manage in the longest fireball technique I had displayed earlier, which meant I had to get creative, with Naruto being down and all. Naruto, I need your cup ramen. What? You heard me. And I need you to find the biggest, worst animal you can find and lead them here. How am I gonna survive? Well, I won't die until I am Hokage-san, that part is your problem. I trust you can do it, while we distract and keep them here. I get the feeling the red-haired boy has kept most of the wildlife scared, so find something good. There was a giant snake out there that had yet to make friends with the blonde prankster. His blue eyes lit up at the mention of his dream, and he nodded. He was the most resilient, not to mention the sneakiest person we had. Only he could do it. But before he could leap away, I grabbed his shoulder, motioning with my other, empty hand. Hesitantly, Naruto handed me a cup from within his jacket, and I shook it, making sure it wasn't empty. You could never expect Naruto to be forthcoming with his ramen. Thanks. Sakura, how many clones can you make of us? At least 3 sets. Where are you going with this, Sasuke-kun? Looking at their puzzled, grim faces, I smiled wide. Don't worry. Sakura, make your clones and send them across from the redhead. If you say so. The pink-haired girl flipped through the required seals and did just that, transforming into our appearances when it came to making our clones. Mechanically, they sprinted through the trunks and leaped into the clearing in various directions, all moving in the same form, not that Gaara cared. Sand lashed at all of them, only for them to continue their scripted movements and disappear again, like holograms. Naruto took the moment to vanish. Gaara gritted his teeth. Search for them. He ordered his siblings, voice hoarse. I smiled wide, making my own set of clones, foregoing the process of transforming in order to project the appearance I had in mind for them. The fusion technique came from an Uchiha scroll, one of the few I had access to. And that was how the team from Sand found themselves facing a gender-bent version of themselves. I stifled a giggle. I had taken extra care to make Gaara, shall we say, voluptuous. He stared at the image, while the female Kankuro beside him, with a much more form-fitting black bodysuit, tried to adopt the seductive mannerisms of a cat, and the male Temari acted out Power Ranger poses. I resisted urge to cackle. I was a genius. Then the lull in battle was interrupted when a wave of sand came crashing over the trio, born of fan art and the vivid imagination of an anime fan fond of sketching. It was too late that I noticed a floating eyeball behind Sakura. My internal laughter died as I grabbed my teammate, evading a claw made of sand by a few inches as it tore through the tree. Letting her go, I fired off a trio of shuriken which arced towards the Jinchuriki with deadly accuracy. Moments later, shuriken of sand met their charge with a twang. Not waiting, taking advantages of the logs being created by the shattered tree as the appendage made of sand swung around the trees, I quickly used substitution to land beside Sakura on the ground. Where is he? Where is your monster? Gaara asked, his face a mask of rage. You know, you could learn a thing or two from our monster. He has a name and it is Naruto, I replied instead. Is fear like the cold, such that when felt in enough excess, it starts to provide the opposite stimulus, such as warmth? Oh, is that so? Sand began creeping towards us, slithering through the grass. Sakura clenched her kunai in front of her, and her questioning gaze on me. Do you know why Naruto exists? I offered, causing him to cock his head, expression showing a hint of curiosity. The sand never stopped moving towards us, and I tried to suppress the shiver down my back. Why? In response, I took out the cup ramen I had copped from him. Because of this. Sasuke-kun, what are you doing? Gaara blinked. Kankuro and Temari looked amazed, as if they were awed, or considering me to be the biggest idiot they had ever had the chance to meet. What is that object? Well, you'll have to wait 3 minutes if you want to find out. I took out my canteen and lifted the lid, pouring the water in. My next trick involved using one of the many logs scattered around the area, made by onslaught of sand against the trees, to substitute behind a few feet behind Gaara. Some call it food of the gods. I used another replacement to dodge the sand, the technique much too fast and instant for the ultimate defense/offense to keep up with. Some call it this will show right on my stomach. I could imagine Sakura spluttering in the distance. Another replacement, and I was in front of Kankuro and Temari, clearly conflicted on whether to engage another one of Gaara's prey or not. But the most appropriate term is, you haven't lived if you haven't had ramen. The original statement had the word Ichiraku in there somewhere, but I don't think with the protruding veins on his face, the Suna Jinchuriki would have cared. It matters not. I shall prove my existence by killing. I don't need to have this ramen to exist. Did you say something? I looked up from the watching the ramen cook. Perhaps Kakashi-sensei was rubbing off on me more than I would admit. Sand moved, grasping me in millions of itchy granules. I floundered momentarily when it circled around me torso and interrupted my breathing. Sasuke-kun! Sakura cried out, several meters above. The kunai she threw were useless, but her presence snapped me back. The sand surrounded me entirely, filling my mouth and nose. It was dark and stifling, but I knew my next move. Chakra was energy, and was not hindered by any material obstacles unless converted to elements. At least, it worked when one needed to substitute from land to underwater. Gaara crushed his fist in a manic anticipation, only for the sand to compress and fall, not a single drop of blood to be seen. The only prize it had to offer was a battered polystyrene cup, uncooked noodles and lukewarm miso broth. For an unbeatable defense/offense, I'm finding a lot of flaws in it. Why yo? I managed, falling next to Sakura. She stared in shock as I took in ragged breaths. Then the sand in the clearing leveled further, and we could make out the splintered log I had substituted myself. One in a series of many, before I had body flickered to my teammate's position. With how frequently Kakashi-sensei disappeared in front of my Sharingan eyes, it was only a matter of time until I learned it. But I was swaying and felt nauseated now, the signs showing the setting in of chakra exhaustion. Pinching the bridge of my nose, I waved it off, much too used to it from self-training. Before I could manage to say anything, a flash of blonde hair dropped onto the branch above us as well, grimy and cut in all sorts of places, panting harshly. "Where's your jacket, Naruto?" Sakura asked, before a snake crashed into the battleground, tongue flickering. Its left eye was pressed close, and when it flicked its tongue out, I spotted orange fabric stuck midway along its length. But snakes don't even chew, but it would have had tried to take a bite. How did this idiot even manage that? Uzumaki Naruto, truly the most unpredictable ninja of the leaf, nay, the world. The gargantuan animal spotted the Suna team, and subtly shifted its posture, diamond-scaled body pointed towards them. "Let's run now," I hissed, getting up against the protests of my body. 11 o'clock towards the tower, Sasuke-kun, Sakura supplied. Grabbing her arm and Naruto's, I trained my eyes on the best displacement I could find, before using the last dregs of my chakra for one final body flicker. The time it took them to reorient themselves gave me enough seconds to heave dryly, gather my bearings, and as one we leapt for tree after tree. Then I off-timed and slipped when my Sharingan flickered off, was caught and pulled by up Sakura, before shaking my arm off from her grasp. It was only then I noticed that I did not even have enough chakra to leap more than a few meters. I might have initially gotten them out of trouble, but now I was slowing them down. My joints felt stiff, and each time I bent knees my calves and thighs flared in pain. It took effort to grab and release branches with my hands, my fingers losing falling prey to inertia increasingly. Damn it! I soldiered on. Were we to be dragged into another confrontation with anyone, anything, we were goners. We need rest. It wasn't even afternoon yet, and I slowed down periodically, until we stopped and finally took some cover. No one complained, and Sakura went about setting traps. Weren't there a lot of animal sounds around here? Naruto took a swig from his canteen, sloshing it around his mouth before swallowing. Yes. Once we settle in, they'll adjust to us. If someone else approaches, they'll quiet down again. That'll be our warning system, I replied, rubbing my limbs and stretching. Oh. Smart, he muttered. Sakura came back after a sparse 20 minutes. Soon we settled in a triangle with our backs to each other, eating our ration bars, but I did not calm until the chirping and hissing and other small noises began again. "So, where'd you find the snake?" I asked. "Oh, it came after me itself. It climbs fast as hell, but it wasn't so smart. Got it tied up chasing after me." "And how did you jacket end up there?" I laid the real question of the metaphorical table. Naruto paused, gave me his shit-eating grin reserved only for members of the Uchiha clan. "That's a trade secret. I can't go a single day without wanting to punch you in the face." "Hey, that's my line. What did you do with my ramen?" "The redhead's mum ate it. Saved my life, though." "You're just fucking with me now." "Sorry, it was the taken by the demon pretending to be his mother." Naruto turned pale. I felt like kicking myself for the faux pas. "What happened back there?" Sakura finally spoke. "What happened to you, Naruto? With that monster back there you were throwing around so much intent to kill as well." "Oh, that is, I didn't mean to," I sighed. Was I supposed to dance around under some assumption that this was his secret to tell, until he had calmed after torturing his own self with awkwardness and solitude, so one day we could congratulate him for being so brave to share with us? Save our lives? Kick his ass? Heh, that boy doesn't know what a monster is. I cut through the blonde's yammering, stealing the attention away. "Do you know how my clan ended?" Seeing the inquisitive glances, I continued without prompting. A single person killed them all. He killed his own uncles, aunts, cousins, elders, acquaintances, people who looked up to him, who admired him, loved him. His own parents. The last admission came out in a whisper. "That's what a monster is like, Naruto. Not you, you could never be." I turned to meet startled blue eyes, shocked myself at the tears swirling in them. "Even him, how badly do you have to be hurt, to decide that the reason you live is to kill others? You're not supposed to be like whatever this is, you bastard." Naruto sniffled, breath hitching. "Damn it, I'm not crying." A drop of sweat fell into my eyes. I hate to be rude, but just what exactly is going on?" Sakura asked, looking between us. I sighed. I could tell her, since technically we were not supposed to know that there was even a law in place to not reveal Naruto's Jinchuriki status, and in a history book that I read was the event of the first Hokage distributing tailed beasts as war deterrents, coupled with the fact that his wife, Uzumaki Mito, was a Jinchuriki. Of course, the books simply told that Hashirama defeated the Kyuubi in Madara, not that Mito sealed it inside herself as I knew from anime canon. I have the Kyuubi sealed inside of me. I faltered in my incomplete thoughts. To speak of revealing the greatest of all tailed beasts inside of you in the same tone as if you were coming out of the closet, damn it, Naruto. Sakura blanched. What? Like, tailed beasts can't be killed. But people can seal them. And the Yondaime was amazing at Fuinjutsu, so he sealed it inside me. Let's say it is true, why you? Sakura retorted, trying to regain her pallor with fake courage. Well, I'm an orphan. Can you imagine him asking anyone for their baby to seal Fox destroying the village in him or her? Well, is it safe? The pink-haired girl asked, trying to lean towards me while not being obvious about it. Of course it is. You trust the Yondaime at least, don't you? Naruto smiled, forced. Well, it certainly explains a lot of things. I knew you bring out the worst in people, but now I know why we tend to be ignored if you're walking with us. Oh, that people like to pretend I don't exist, Sakura-chan. Naruto ruffled his hair, trying to smile. But it's nothing. They can't pretend there is no Uzumaki Naruto when I become the Hokage. Right. At least now I know why some people look sad, angry, or blatantly oblivious all of a sudden when you're around. Sakura muttered. I do feel kind of sorry. For the Kyuubi, I mean. We turned our heads at this. What? It's Naruto. Forcing, even the Kyuubi, to spend the rest of its life with Naruto of all people? I think we've corrupted her. Isn't today full of surprises? It does seem a bit much. All it did was try to destroy the village. I nodded sagely, quickly realizing the joke. As far as shinobi humor went, this wasn't even dark. You guys are the fucking worst. Naruto tried to be indignant, but the smile on his face ruined the effect. Here I was, thinking you'd start looking at me with the cold look everyone else who knows gives me, and what do I get? Sympathy, but for Fox? Unbelievable. What's unbelievable is how your jacket ended up midway on the tongue of a snake. I'm still not telling you that. And even more unbelievable is how you're being. You actually smiled. Don't you do that when Puppy dies or something? You weren't around when Sasuke-kun decided to distract our enemies. Sakura rubbed her arms, shaking her head sideways. Could the femme, Gaara, have traumatized her? Or how did you distract him? Naruto asked, face scrunched into a foxy expression. I gave a half-smile back. That's a trade secret. The atmosphere considerably better, we finally relaxed. But even the morning of the second day was not over. Picking ourselves up, we continued towards the Tower 1. But from the glances Sakura kept giving Naruto, the way her own shoulders remained drooping, I could tell what had occurred had shaken her the most. The blonde himself kept glancing at us. The issue had been brought up, but not in a place where we could discuss. That'd have to wait until we reached the tower. If we reached the tower. But the second day was not over. Although the emergency genin bars helped, bolstered with caffeine and a bit of soldier pill ingredients, a gram per every 100 grams roughly, we were not in any condition to fight again. My left arm and Naruto's knuckles had to be bandaged while I only disinfected the wound on my forehead, leaving it exposed to the air for faster healing. I leaped over another branch, stopped, crept on my toes around the trunk of a tree, climbed upwards with no chakra while bracing my broken ribs, and leaped again, following the path that Naruto was tracing. It was now understandable how the orange-clad Jinchuriki was so easy to lose sight of for short moments. Without his jacket, which I had come to associate with him like one did the sun with day and the stars with night, I had to take an effort to remove the bias from my mind. This effect was also employed by one gentleman thief, clad in stark white against the darkness of the nights of his heists, come to think of it. Furthermore, despite being able to climb up and down as shinobi, we tended to skin sideways first. Naruto used those precious seconds, or second, to change the plane of his location. Even Sakura was looking momentarily impressed at some point in time. Pausing at Naruto's signal, a raised fist, we let him climb up the tree to scout further. Seconds later he clambered down. Good news, guys, I can see the tower. Couldn't have been an hour away if we were top shape, believe it. And that was when we all felt it. 'Twas killing intent, coming from multiple places. Sharingan whirring to life, I scanned the forest and the various snakes that had their eyes on us, all of them enlarged versions of lither, more venomous snakes. On the trees, on the ground, one or two were hanging watching from above. Buggerations. Regardless of whether these were summons or not of you-know-who, even normal animals in this hellhole gave off intent to kill. Naruto made half-dozen clones without prompting and they lunged at the reptiles, 4 of them sacrificing themselves in the collective strike unleashed by the snakes while burying a kunai in their diamond-shaped skulls. Huh. I mouthed, surprised that shadow clones actually completed an attack without us jumping in first. Or maybe Naruto was unusually skilled with snakes. Perhaps I jinxed us with that thought, for it followed a magnanimous gale of wind which cut through tree trunks and uprooted our formation, sending us all away from each other. Oh, in the name of great-grandpa Madara-sama, no. While I tried to kid myself, I very much resisted the urge to urinate all over myself as death walked into view, bearing a grass symbol. There was so much that had been changed, that I did not feel secure at all in the 10% chance of survival of the cursed seal. I am going to die. As if all the fear I should have been feeling long ago had been rising up in a dam, broke through and flooded my mind. I am going to die and I can't even make a pun. I wasn't all that brave a person. I didn't raise my voice in dissent or fought for some sort of ideals, unless my mouth left my mind behind. Just like how my body found it sane to go jumping and skidding across railings and rooftops before I got into this world. Much of the selfless deeds people did revolve around the logic that 'tis what anyone would have done, and anyone would not fight Orochimaru if they knew what they were up against. I went for the sanest action and reached for my emergency flares. A pale hand reached out and crushed the tubes before any sparks could take to the air. Kukuku, it seems I underestimated you. Are you a censor? He was suppressing his chakra, but this close, it felt like the waves of ocean. Slow, deliberate, and powerful. I caught her punch without thinking, following up with a fast exchange of blows before I kicked off his stomach and put some distance between us. Interesting, most interesting. The Uchiha were a proud clan. You wear their symbol on your back for the world you see, yet you hide your eyes. I stared unshocked. How? Plain cosmetic lenses don't adjust to your pupil dilating and contracting. He smirked. Take note for the future. A shoddy disguise spells a ninja's demise. I clamped down on my panic, something I had been developing a good skill for nowadays. Knowing the Sanin's penchant for theatrics, I reached into my pouch and soaked my fingers in saline solution, before removing my lenses in one swift motion. I may or may not have practiced this. All hail Lelouch. Fascinating, Orochimaru commented, taking his stance. At once his oppressive chakra saturated the air, smothering my senses until all I could feel was fear, and fear. I gritted my teeth. I knew this day would come. Inadvertently, all the time I had to act as the loner Sasuke was also the time I spent training. Letting chakra course through my body, I steeled my resolve, biting down on my tongue to let the pain dispel his hold over me. Naruto would survive. He was no doubt stronger than me. It was Sakura I worried about, tired as she was and separated from us. 100 seconds, I could probably manage at full power. The snake Sannin wanted a show? He would get a goddamn show. I took one Sisyphean step, then another. Kukuku, for you to break through this much killing intent, truly a member of the Uchiha clan. I rushed forward, faster than ever before, and launched a furious strike that caught him in the left shoulder. The enemy grinned before I pushed off on my toes and rammed the steel plate of my Hittite into his nose. This was followed by a blow to solar plexus, a palm strike to the sternum and roundhouse kick to the jaw in quick succession, which was caught, and he brought down his elbow hard on my leg. I screamed, twisted and brought my other leg around, which was also blocked. I rotated my torso, forming seals while spinning my axis horizontal to the ground, but he instantly bashed me away with a kick. I bounced across the grass once, rolled and tossed a bunch of shuriken to nullify another barrage heading my way, before I sensed chakra behind me and swept my leg out, in an ideal position for the leaf whirlwind. Instead, the ground rose from beneath my leg, pulling my hamstrings upward as an earth wall rose. Trust Orochimaru to use a defensive move offensively. Pulling out my kunai, I tossed them after the Sannin, throwing one with an explosive tag towards him. And then I surprised him, when I teleported to him instead, the wire in my hand severing the tag from the projectile. I slapped the tag onto his torso before substituting the hell out of his proximity, as it exploded. The ground fissured as something drilled through, and the next moment I was airborne. The battle shifted to the trees. I barely managed to dodge a jet of flame, weaving up and down the branches while launching two wired shuriken that curved away from each other, giving room to my opponent in the middle. Crossing my arms, I sprinting diagonally, below and then above Orochimaru, before pulling my arms and catching his neck in between while casting a minor genjutsu to make up seam down and down seam up, unnoticeable from our vantage. Smirking, he elongated his neck, causing me to blanch. In panic, I slapped my hands into the tiger seal and unleashed a fireball point blank. Through the smoke and smell of cooked meat, grotesquely appetizing, I was kneed in the stomach, before a blow to my cranium sent me hurtling towards the ground. I wheezed as I fell into a plank, before a pair of feet smashed between my shoulder blades. I bunched blades of grass in my hand before letting out a howl. "Is that all you have?" Orochimaru asked in the most infuriating tone I had ever heard, after the most painful beating I had ever received. It had begun innocently enough, my descent into darkness. Ignoring my heavy eyelids, hyperventilation, and the general signs of my body succumbing to chakra exhaustion, I went. Is your neck the only thing you can elongate with that jutsu?" I made a quip worthy of Jiraiya. It had the intended effect because moments later I was on the end of a furious exchange of blows. Maybe I had reminded the old sod of his perverted teammate. I could see his blows, intuit his fluid pattern that seemed like drunken martial arts, but graceful. I could also see my body had no way of keeping up with this, as I slid closer and closer to the edge. "Sasuke-kun!" Sakura's voice rang in my ears as I blinked some flashing spots in my vision from a painful blow to the temple, which had filled my mouth with blood. Whipping my head, I saw her, clutching an arm weakly, the red of her dress diffused with a darker stain. I made to move, only to be kicked further away. "No distractions," Orochimaru teased. "We're not finished yet." "You're in my way," I spoke, tone frigid. "Come now, she is not going anywhere." At the end of his sentence, he let a kunai fly as I watched helplessly, straight towards her. Out of kunai, rational thoughts and time to think, I broke past all my limits. Orochimaru stared dispassionately as he let the kunai fly towards the pink-haired mouse, trying neither to kill her nor spare her. The next moment the Uchiha was running for her. Clearly, the Leaf Shinobi were idiots when it came to profiling him, or any other matter. Thank God for Kabuto. Unveiling the grass cutter at last, he extended his neck to intercept the boy when he dodged a moment too soon, pushing off with chakra straight into his kunai. Fuck, thought Orochimaru, staring at his prize, for he would have those eyes one day, now fully matured and now losing light. "Hey! You bastard!" The Jinchuriki was on the scene, bursting out of the trees at the same time as Kabuto. Orochimaru met his eyes, every bit baleful like a respectful leaf ninja whose comrade had been downed. Only paying half attention to the blonde and his multiple clones now attacking him, the Sannin watched as Kabuto began to subtly knock the girl out with a genjutsu, before healing the foolish Uchiha. What would he do without Kabuto? Staring form behind his half-melted mask, Orochimaru unleashed his killer intent on the blonde. "Who the hell are you?" The Kyuubi container, Minato's son asked, shaking but resilient. "Me? Why should I tell you?" He smirked. Something seemed to click inside the blonde's head. "Well, I am Uzumaki Naruto, and I am going to kick your ass, believe it! You think you can just hurt my friends and get away with it? Shadow Clone Jutsu." Did this boy know nothing else? But a Jinchuriki was a Jinchuriki, and after toying with him, he nipped one potential headache in the bud, applying the 5-element seal on him. I came to with a jerk, muttering in English, no as the face over me cleared, a Yakushi Kabuto who deserved an Oscar for his stricken look. And then it occurred to me what had just happened. To my side lay Sakura, bleeding out and unconscious. "Heal her." I tried to order with characteristic Uchiha arrogance, but it came out as a plea. Kabuto began stuttering. Naruto was going against Orochimaru,